Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols Plus, a PlayStation podcast supplement. My name is Colin Moriarty. Today I'm joined by a very special guest indeed. We haven't had them on the show in a while, and it's just me versus them. That'll be more than fair, I think. Cog, good to see you, my friend. The Defining Dukes with your Helix shirt on. How's life, my friend? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Yeah,
First
there we go.
baby.
Professional podcast.
Yeah.
Doing good, man. Life is better. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, we talked before, and Mama Cog is doing much better. Shout out to all the LSM fam who reached out and sent their love. It really meant a lot. Then obviously, just fresh off of Summer Game Fest, fresh off of showcases and stuff like that, hitting the ground running. So I'm still, in the content, circle, but slowly getting out of it, and hopefully next week, get my life back and get my mental health as well back. We need some downtime, boy.
Oh, yeah, I bet, man. I mean, I'm very sympathetic to what you were going through with your mom. We were talking about it, like you said, and I'm such a mama's boy that I'm very in tune with that. My mom was pretty sick recently, too, as you guys might recall, and she's fine now. But yeah, the audience was really, really great about that. Yeah. And my mom loves everyone, so it's like, that, and I know she would love that spirit of everyone wishing her well. How old is your mom?
My mom now is 75.
That's exactly how old my mom is. That's interesting.
Same. Yeah, I love your mom. She's awesome. I love her energy, love her spirit. Again, so I see things turning better for doing better. But we got to take care of it. We're mama's boys and everything. You realize when something happens, everything stops, and she gets all the attention. So yeah, and again, LSM fam, one of the best communities by far. It's not even close.
Agreed. The best in my opinion. But you can't say that. You have other communities.
I got communities too.
Yeah.
I love them all.
But I love all my children. And Matty, Mr. Matty Plays, good to see you, my friend.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. Like we were talking before the show, got a full night of rest. So coming in with a head of steam today. Might be able to complete a thought or two. But I'm doing well, man. Good. It's been talking about at the start of Defining Duke, just a really fun week. A lot of great game announcements. Kind of gets you in that mode where you're like, yeah, all this doom and gloom shit you read online, it's like, it's not real. Come on, look at these games. So fun out there. So yeah, just having a little fun, but feeling good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Obviously something that's overdue. Like I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, man, us three don't get to do this often enough. So
no, I'd love to have you guys on more. I try to kind of leave you alone,
you don't have to go to the extreme you do, just as a heads up.
Yeah, no, I know. I
always like to make myself available for you.
I'm very laissez-faire, like, and you like, I feel less bad about Brad because Brad is basically full time with us. Dustin obviously is enslaved to me, although not in the next few weeks or a few months, or whatever. But you guys, like, you both have your own communities and your own content. Like, this isn't your main content, right? So like, sure. I try to just leave people alone so they're happy.
I always appreciate it. You've always been more than understanding with my workload, so I've always appreciated that.
Well, I understand it. I get it. So. No problem at all. But I wanted to collect you guys. And by the way, so Dustin's kind of MIA now because he's having his kid soon. And then Chris is actually concurrently recording the First Light review discussion and Spoilercast, which Jason Polanski from Atari is leading, which is very exciting. So he's over there on that right now. And those will go up. That will go up next week. We're going to put this up first. So in case anyone is wondering where those guys are, it's just me and the Dukes. I don't need any help. I'll be fine. Really interesting couple weeks for everyone. Obviously PlayStation's doing whatever, they don't talk, and God of War looks cool, and we'll see Intergalactic and Wolverine and all whatever, but there's really actually very little to say right now because they've just been, I think, incredibly disciplined about being quiet. I think a lot of that has to do with there's just the next burst of real attention Sony's going to put on anything is the PS6 reveal. I think that will happen Q1 probably. And you don't want to say anything before they have one more chance to sell PlayStation 5s, a lot of them, with Wolverine into Grand Theft Auto. So I just think that they're being quiet deliberately. And then, of course, Nintendo really doesn't say anything either. So a lot of the focus has been on Xbox these last couple of weeks, and I think reasonably so. I wanted to talk to you guys about what you were feeling about what was going on. There's a lot of changes and inferences, I guess, you can pull from things. However, I thought it would be interesting to structure it this way. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but I wrote what I consider 8 axioms about Xbox. And I'll present them to you guys. You could say true or false about them, and then we can get into each of these topics that I think would be worth exploring. But before we do any of that, let's go top line. Cog, how are you feeling? I mean, from my perspective, if I were an Xbox person, I'd feel hopeful in a way, but I think kind of maybe a little delusionally hopeful. We'll get into that. And I'd feel more frustrated that this seems to be changing constantly and you don't really know where you stand, and it feels like quicksand kind of as a consumer. And yet I feel like they must do something, right? If they want to continue. So I actually think they're just in a really bad spot with poison pills that must be swallowed at different junctures. Choose your poison kind of situation. And then at the end, you'll see how it comes out. But I'm curious what you guys are from your perspective, what's been going on the last few weeks.
Yeah, top level. It's been a wild ride, just trying to figure this thing out. And, obviously past regime, I always looked at it like there was a price to be paid when you take the big swing. And I always, the equivalent to me is the sports franchise. You go for the big trade, you try to knock it out, you try to integrate, and whatever reason, the chemistry doesn't work or the contracts don't work. And then ultimately with that sports franchise, and obviously I'm kind of referencing ABK as the big elephant in the room, I started to see signs that they are shifting philosophy. We saw the 4 games come over to PlayStation. We started to see the aggressive multi-platform strategy that this is an Xbox. And, to be brutally honest, I'm one of those people that's like, I don't necessarily like it. But at the end of the day, they have to survive. And as you know, my story as a Sega kid, this is the transitionary period to you becoming the biggest publisher in gaming. Okay, I've accepted that fate. You get to exist in your new form, and that's that. So when obviously Phil and is let go and Sarah's let go, I'm like, okay, who's Asha Sharma? And I started doing my research, and I'll be honest, I didn't feel good. I started to look at the background. I'm like, ooh, core AI, what is this? Okay, are you here? Are you ultimately the steward to strip down the brand that I love into parts and to get out of the game business completely? And, I looked at maybe Helix at the point was kind of like, you've made this comment before, like an off-ramp, right? Which is like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're just going to be real nice to you in the beginning kind of thing.
I should say real quick, Cog, that I think it's actually very pro-consumer the way I thought that they were going, which is like, we're not going to abandon you guys.
Right. It was one of those things like they were making the right statements, but again, I'm looking at the background and I didn't feel good. I'll be honest, I was very scared. Like this, and obviously, you got that, the way Sarah Bond's handling out the door, bringing in someone with not gamer sensibilities. Again, not that the CEO has to have that, right? But it's just one of those things that I'm like, there's a gift and a curse. There's going to be, hey, you understand some innate things that from a gaming perspective, kind of helps the brand. But at the other time, you may have to make the tough decisions and you have no connection, right? So initially I was scared. So anyway, now we fast forward and I'm watching her and I'm like, all right, let's see what Asha's about, this, that, and third. And what's interesting is me and her did have some crossover at Meta, like just a month or two when she was there for Facebook Messenger. And I did my research and everything about her is user acquisition, platform satisfaction. And the thing I noticed was like the player voice stuff. And I'm like, okay, she really takes this seriously, especially from the Instacart days and transform. Everything she's been at, she's transformed, brought it up, and then she's about 3-4 years and gone. That's kind of her MO. So I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't start taking her regime seriously until 3 things. 1, the shirt I have on. Literally, I'm selfish. All I care about is you're making another console, right? That's the first thing. I don't care about cloud. I don't care about mobile. I don't care about all these audience you think you want to be in. I'm here for the console. You're making one, great. Like that. Second, the Game Pass reduction. I didn't think they'd ever do anything like that. So I'm like, you're lowering the price of a subscription service? I've never heard a corporation. Our number one thing that we're touting, we're reducing the price. Like, okay, cool. I understood the cost was Call of Duty. Cool. The third thing for me that made me take her a little bit seriously, I have to be honest, and Matty, you know I'm about to go with this, is the Matthew Ball hire.
Mm-hmm.
I've been following Matthew Ball for the last 3 or 4 years. And I even to the point where at first I wanted to vet him. I didn't know who he was because I would get these huge PowerPoints, the state of the games industry, very analytical, very in-depth. I love these things. You know me, Colin, me and you are similar. You get information, I'm like, oh, information on how the games industry. And this guy's, and my only question was, I just needed to vet him. Who is this guy? I went to people high up, third party, to find out who he is. I went at the time to Phil, during Phil. I was like, hey, who is this? This guy's saying this about your data, about this, your numbers. And every person that spoke to me said, oh, no, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. He's one of the top analysts in the game. He's a top strategist. He understands the industry. So when I saw him, I said, okay, cool. And then now where we get to now, which is the pivot back, right? And the exclusive thing. And it's got to be honest. It is, to your point, Colin, it is confusing. It is, I don't know if this is going to work because my question is, it's always about, I'm selfish as a gamer, but I want to understand how this is going to work for the business. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. So that's where it is. It's the final point is that for the feeling for the community, there is a high level of optimism only because for the first time in a long time, they seem ready to fight. Now, I don't know how much damage it's going to do in long-term damage, and do it basically subtracting short-term gain for long-term play. We'll see how it works out, but I do like the fact that they are trying to be competitive, or at least giving the appearances of it by certain actions. Obviously, with the showcase, and that's where I'm at now. So we just go see how this thing ride out, man. So that's where I am currently.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting to hear you, Matt. Why don't you add to it and tell me where your high-level thoughts are, and then we'll get into the weeds.
It's funny. I as I think about it more and more, I think what I come to is it's impossible to be definitive on anything. It is such a dramatically evolving situation, and so I could say something positive about Asha Sharma. She just announced this Xbox reset, which no doubt means massive layoffs. Teams are going to be affected. It's going to really speak to what she values, and I may not fully agree with that. At the same time, you look at what she's done since she's come in, and I feel like she has instilled a lot of hope in the brand. But you can't say for sure what's going to solve their problems. And I don't even think Xbox really knows. Like, I think it's just, we kind of have to all be patient, wait and see, and just kind of evaluate each move individually. I think the thing that I get wrapped up in a little bit is the pivot to exclusivity. I find that to be a demonstrative move as much as, like, it's pretty grand. Like, they did a huge swing away from this. I remember us all getting together, Sacred Boys and Duke Boys. The episode was like, is it over? Like, that was top of 24. And we all were like, those 4 games aren't the only ones. Like, you can't put this genie back in the bottle. So for them to go back to exclusivity has really been top of mind for me, because I'm asking myself, well, what's the intent behind this? Is this to appease short-term, mid-term? Is this, I find it hard to imagine. Gears E-Day has been in development for so long, as has Clockwork. I would find it extremely cold-blooded to be like, we're going to send you out to die. It's also business, but I don't know. Like, I don't think the Twitter army on Xbox is that loud. So I've been really kicking it around in my head. And what I keep coming back to is not user acquisition, but retention. I feel like that's a lot of Xbox's focus right now. Is it's impossible to grow hardware at a rapid rate. You're not going to catch up to PlayStation if that's even your goal, or Nintendo. You're losing a lot of people, though. And right now, no one wants to buy anything because hardware is so expensive. So you really need to focus on keeping people at your box. And I think that is the play behind exclusivity. It's likely, especially with Gears, it's like, we have a port ready. Like, this doesn't work out, greenlight that thing, and in half a year, we'll have that shipped. So there is the exit plan. And I think that is the knife behind the back that keeps me from going full send optimism. Is like, there is a half-hearted commitment still underneath it all, of like, you could change the plan if it doesn't work for you. It's also interesting because we're getting more information now, more than ever, on Xbox's financial position, a 3% accountability margin. And you read that, and that's after getting ABK, which they use to subsidize all of their losses through mismanagement, canceled projects, overinvestments, all that stuff. This forced them to go multi-plat, They also were chasing 30 to now we've learned up to 40% in some cases, accountability margins for some of their projects. And what I can also see with them resetting the brand is if you're down to 3 after all of that, clearly didn't work. They might just be looking at as early as I think it was 2022 where they had 12% and being like, hey, that wasn't really that bad in the end of the day. You know, that the pressure Microsoft leadership had put on the brand and what it had resulted in had effectively killed it, even though it had some of the most monstrous IP like Call of Duty in its pockets. It shows that, as Colin, you've said many times before, you can't obviously buy just outright success in this industry unless it's a partnership you've nurtured for a while.
I can't believe anyone would ever argue against that now. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, I hold my hand up and say, look, I championed it. There are parts of it I think made sense and I would defend in my stance, but it's like, yeah, it's 100% true. It's just like it did not work out how I thought it would, and it definitely hurt them. And that's what they're recovering from, you know. So Asha Sharma's been handed, I've always said, I think a bigger mess than Phil was handed by Don Metric. I really do think Don's deeds were undoable over time. I think Phil's has been a bunch of band-aids that have turned into these cords that are choking the brand. Like you have, again, we learned through a recent Jez report, like here's Game Pass, which is subsidizing a lot of losses. Like it's actually very helpful to their brand, but it's also choking out their sales and preventing them from growing. So they're just a flat company right now. And it's going to require some, as she's said, radical major undoing. And that's where it's a careful what you wish for, but also I could say a dash of optimism is like, there's no doubt that Phil was, like any person, was married to particular ideas and games and teams and beliefs of his. That's what makes all these people leaders, is like kind of what they want to champion while they are there. Phil gave teams a really long leash. Obviously, that came back to bite him at the end of his tenure, because then he had to start cutting down the projects that I think had high potential. You could argue Perfect Dark was worth hanging with because Xbox just needed to have like, oh, we built this studio. Like there was something in that beyond the game. It was just that this is our team. We actually built something on our own. And they failed to do that. That says a lot about that leadership team. Same goes for something like Project Blackbird. I imagine if right now you ask Phil, like, I always pick on these games, but like you line up a Kiln, a Keeper, a South of Midnight, and then a Project Blackbird for ZeniMax Online Studios. And they're like, cancel one of these right now. And I'm sure if you're looking at that group, I would imagine Project Blackbird is last on that list because of the pedigree that ZeniMax Online Studios holds and the money that they have generated with Elder Scrolls Online over a decade after its release. Like, so these types of decisions have hurt the brand significantly. And now that's all been handed over to Asha. So no doubt it's been very interesting to watch it all unfold. And certainly like they've made moves that I thought, for example, with exclusivity, I've said in so many videos and podcasts, I was like, give them the 27. I said, they're going to just wait and see. They're not going to overcommit. But they say they're not going to make the fast decision. But I thought the decision to go with exclusives at the summer showcase was really fast. I thought it would be a much longer time, much more like, here's if anything, developer direct, top of the year. This is our next phase. This is our next move. We're done assessing. We've learned, but they're moving quick. And so there's no denying that Asha has like put a jolt in the brand, not just from the fan perspective, but even the people who work there, dude. Like they're shipping more console updates than ever. They are listening to, I don't put too much stock into player voice. It's basically Reddit. And I think it's useful for small features, but I don't think Xbox is going to make a big decision like exclusivity based on player voice. I think it's there to sort of support the idea that they are listening. But I think things like, hey, we really need our own platinum trophy equivalent, like stuff like that feels possible now. Stuff that was shelved so that they could originally chase other stuff. The slashing of Copilot, like I'm sure a lot of this stuff is going to be rebranded. And that's the trick with all of this. This is why I'm a little reluctant to jump out the window. I guess that's a bad thing. To jump for joy is things that solve Xbox's current hardware crisis is literally what Phil Spencer was doing. Project Latitude. This is an Xbox. I just don't think they're going to present it as much. I think they're going to present it more as like, we're helping you. We're cutting prices. They're going to go more with an optics driven route. And I think people won't argue that because right now gaming is country club status. So I do think there are going to be like, we need to do more radical approaches to like getting people in the games. It's like, okay, so you want to hand someone a controller and have them game on their smart TV, probably with the Game Pass Starter Edition that you just revealed. So I don't think the days of whatever Phil and Sarah were working on are done. It's just, I think the way they present them is going to continue on. I think there are features within Copilot that actually could have been really useful, like being able to catch up on the game that you were last playing. Like, oh, hey, what was I doing a week ago when I was playing this? And Copilot catches you up on that. I think that sounds like a great feature. I'm not even very pro AI. I do think they're going to keep that, but I think they're going to call it something else. And I think that is how they are going to approach things, is they realize a lot of what bit them was the memes, obviously shitty decisions at the start of this all, but then it turned into memes, pointing and laughing, just horrible messaging, inconsistent at that too. I'm noticing, at least after Summer Games Fest, pretty unified in what they were all saying. They all kind of seemed to have the same list of talking points. You had multiple I watched every interview from Matt Booty, from Matthew Ball, and Asha Sharma, and they were all saying the same thing. And anything they added was just more context to the same exact thing that was being said. So that's a good sign. They seem on the same page. Anyway, I'm going on and on, but yeah, it's to me, my top level thoughts are just like, I'm still kind of wait and see. I feel like it's too soon to say, but no doubt I'm feeling better about the brand. I was someone who was completely out in that. Look, I've been a fan since day one. I feel like as a fan, I was not treated as such, especially last year. So it's like, it's good to feel like, okay, I want to be here. Good. Like as in playing on your platform. Like I'm not a fool for investing time and money playing my games here. So I hope they keep up on that positive trajectory. And this reset is going to be mighty interesting because, again, it's going to be the first thing that we see from her where it tells us what she truly values. Everything else has been little adjustments, but what does she actually value? And I think it's going to be mega hits. And I think there's going to be a cost with that, which means you're not going to get the more interesting, smaller games with Xbox, which is why I like them and why I'm a little critical of the PlayStation publishing label at times, which I know a lot of people don't like, but it's just how I've felt for a while now. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's good stuff from both of you. I mean, a lot to digest. I think with the small versus big games, I've been saying this for years, and I think that they've come to the conclusion that Sony came to a long time ago, which is it's just not worth making these games. I know people miss them, like, oh, well, the Medieval remake or something, or Concrete Genie. It's like, but the reality is like no one played these games, and you don't spend. It's like, oh, we spent $25 million and we made $32 million. It's like they don't give a shit about that. That's like, it's just stupid. Like, I know it's frustrating, but it's stupid to make those kinds of investments. And I've made the argument that Sony should probably truncate their first party studios into like 8 or 10 mega teams, and then that's it. And then those guys churn every 4 or 5 years. You get 2 a year or something like that. Because I'm not entirely sure the exclusives really even matter that much anymore. And I've said that. I mean, Sony hasn't had that many exclusives this generation, and no one cares. The console's selling great, which I think is a major problem for Xbox. And that's it's not something they can really do anything about. It's like there's just so much inertia and velocity on PlayStation side that it doesn't really quite matter what they do. People just want to play there and be there. And when Grand Theft Auto, well, Wolverine's going to be huge, obviously. And when Grand Theft Auto comes out, I mean, and that's why I think they're just being particularly quiet, because I think they just were like, we don't need to do anything right now. We'll just get through this fall, and then everything pops off for us, and we'll worry about that stuff later. As far as my high level thoughts before we get into the axioms I wrote, and we'll get into all the different topics, is I think I like the energy of trying things. I think the major thing that I'm concerned about, not concerned about, I mean, it is what it is it just seems like there's a willingness to believe and champion anything Xbox does by the Xbox user base. And then that's projected on other fan bases as if they all also behave like that. And I find it a little troubling, because I think a lot of these situations came up because people just went down the primrose path for years, not realizing where it was bringing them. And I tried to tell people that there were certain things that were not going to work. I truly believe the Activision Blizzard deal is the reason this is happening. And that without that, people are like, oh, the money's helping them withstand all of this. And I'm like, but just think about it differently. Imagine that money was deployed differently. $70 billion is a lot of money. You can make 150 The Last of Us is with that. Like, I'm not saying that's what you'd want to do, but I'm saying that's how much money it is. So imagine if you just deployed it differently. And instead of bringing this thing on you that just brought the Eye of Sauron onto your brand from the internal forces, it was never going to work. And once Call of Duty left Game Pass, I'm like, that's it. Like the whole raison d'etre, as I said on my bad French, as I said on Twitter, of the deal is done. That's it. The deal was to put Call of Duty on Game Pass. That was the whole reason the deal happened. So to me, I'm like, yeah, this is falling apart. And I feel like there was not a lot of criticism about what was going on. And I've been incredibly critical of Sony this generation in a lot of different ways because I think they're fucking up. I think they're lucky that they have so much cachet, I guess, with people. I've used the argument of political capital. It's not the same, but like you do all these things and you earn political capital and then you deploy it on really unpopular shit or difficult things. And there's a quantity of it that you have. And I think the implosion of Concord and Firewalk and Bungie acquisition, which was an awful idea and proved, I mean, I was against it from the site for a second, as you guys remember. I'm like, this is a horrible idea. I don't know what they're doing this for. I think that like they've withstood that by deploying their political capital, and now they have none. And now I think they're vulnerable. I actually think Sony and PlayStation is actually more vulnerable than they've been in a while. I think the problem is that there's no one that has the leverage to take advantage of it. And you can see like Microsoft's not that company and Steam's not that company. A lot of people are worried about the Steam machine. And I'm like, I don't think, especially at the current costs. My whole argument with the Steam machine is like, I don't think it manufactures customers. I think you're making them for people that are already on your platform, and thus it kind of doesn't make any sense, right? Like it's an engagement play that a really valuable private company can make because they have 200 employees or whatever, and they each make, you know, an average of whatever $500,000 a year, and it's a boutique company that can make risks, but they can't go up against Sony, I don't think. I think the things Matthew Ball has been saying about manufacturing, which we'll talk about, and Asha has talked about this as well a little bit also, and they said it without saying it, is that like they just have disadvantages against companies like Sony and Nintendo with manufacturing. They're just better at it. I also think, and I will get into this later, that I would peg their, this is just an opinion, I would peg their ability to turn the brand around in a way that I think the mega fans want to, as the low to mid single percentage. Like I don't think it can happen. I just, maybe 1 in 20, something like that, 1 in 15 chance of doing what I think people want them to do. I just think it's too late. And what's ironic, and you guys had kind of touched on this, is what they would need to do to attract people to their hardware will destroy their bottom line in the short to midterm, and they might not ever get to the long term. They could pull everything to Xbox that they've done, which is fine. I mean, I don't really, honestly, Clockwork was really one of the only games I cared about, which is kind of sad. Yeah. For me, that's one of the exclusives, and I do feel like that game kind of is being sent out to die in a way, because of what they're doing. It's not
generating the numbers it should be.
No, opinion. And like I'm less concerned about Gears. I think that's peculiar for different reasons, and I feel bad for the coalition, just because, you know, if you don't know how game development really works, you don't understand that like there's been a whole pipeline dedicated to that PlayStation 5 version for probably a couple of years. They've probably QA'd the fuck out of it. They've played it extensively on, you know, just the things about putting button prompts and all that. That's one thing, but like making it work and dedicating time, millions of dollars probably on that specific, just that fork of the project. And I it is my sincere hope that Asha and company are smart enough and good enough to go to the coalition and to In Exile and say like, listen, we are kind of sacrificing your games in a way. Especially for Gears, you guys were probably fairly excited because you were going to sell probably a couple million copies. You would probably get nice ship bonuses and milestone bonuses and all that. We're going to take care of you. Like, in other words, like, we know what we're doing to your games and it's not fair to you. So we want to ensure, I talk about this all the time, about, I say all the time, like, Sony sacrificed studios to Vita, like Zipper and Big, and then they sacrifice studios to PSVR. So Sony does it too. Like, you kind of just pick the short straw and you're like, fuck, these guys get to make this generational whatever game and we got stuck with this. It's why I think that there's probably less excitement than you'd think to be a PS6 launch game, because it's like, well, like we'll be a showcase, but we're not going to sell, and it's about money, and it's about money for people in the at the teams too. And I think that's one of the things that people don't understand about Sony's business, is that people make a lot of money when the games sell well. The bonuses are good. The ship bonuses are good. The milestone bonuses are good, and your pay is good. And so I just couldn't help but think about the Coalition and In Exile from that perspective, because they were so close. They were making the game under the assumption, because people are like, well, what about Housemarque and Saros? And I'm like, but they never made the game with any expectation that it was going to go to Xbox. These guys were making these games with the expectation that they were actually going to sell them instead of just putting them in Game Pass. And I think that matters. So that's one thing that I was thinking about as well. But yeah, I think it's important to reiterate, like, I'm very harsh on Sony. I just think that they have room to maneuver. I'm not sure where Microsoft goes from here if this doesn't work. Like I think this is kind of it. If like this whole play, right? Because at that point, it's like, well, what are you guys doing? You know, just stop, you know, and embrace what you could be, which is a really powerful third party. You know, and keep your shit. By the way, I don't think they should be hardware. They'll continue to make hardware, and I think that, Cog, I've been using the Dreamcast example about like in spring 2001 when Sega's like, we're just not doing this anymore.
Yeah,
and there were games like Crazy Taxi 2 came out afterwards and stuff like that, but there were it was over, and everyone understood and everyone disappeared. And I do authentically appreciate that Xbox is trying to communicate to its audience, like, we're not going to just throw you away. I think it would be bad business because there's tens of millions of people on there that are buying games and playing games and on Game Pass and all that. But also I think it's actually quite pro-consumer to say, like, we're going to make some sort of solution that seemed like it was going to be a PC with some sort of backwards compatibility for your games. And then we'll worry about everything later, but at least you'll have access to these things forever, and your achievements and your Xbox 360 games and all these things. And I thought that was kind of cool. That's much more than Sony's ever done. We still can't play PS3 games on PS5. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say, but I just think, well, let's get into these axioms.
Okay.
And you guys can agree or disagree, but I wrote these are from my perspective. And I think they'll allow us to get into each thing. So I want to talk about communications first. I say Xbox leadership has a pathological need to say too much, constantly putting too much in the wild, contradicting itself, and making more problems for itself than it's solving with its communication strategy. It looks completely ridiculous in comparison to its hardware rivals, which say virtually nothing at all. As the old adage goes, when you're explaining, you're losing. This is the thing I think I'm most confused about, actually, of everything, is that, like, they fired some of the old people. They kept some of the old people, which I think was a huge mistake. I don't know why you would do that. And again, I don't like throwing around people's jobs and like their careers and stuff like it's like, get out of here. Like we do in sports, but it is like sports where it's like, well, I don't feel that bad for you. Like with Aaron Glenn on the Jets, it's like he makes $10 million a year. If they fire him now, he'll get paid out $40 million. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be all right.
You know, and honestly, I feel this way about Matt Booty. Probably makes in the low couple millions a year, I would assume, and Aaron Greenberg probably in the same.
Those are the midway days with that. It's so easy. That man's made.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, exactly. And he was with Mojang and managing that and all the rest. So it's like, and Aaron Greenberg's the same way. He's been there forever, and he probably makes in the low millions of dollars a year. It's like, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm actually one of the people that says, like, well, while I think maybe CEOs and executives and these high level VPs shouldn't make $50 million a year, I don't think there's anything wrong with them making in the millions a year. It's just hard, big decisions, you know? But so I want to be like clear. It's like, I'm not throwing these guys' jobs around, but they'll be fine. The reality is that when they didn't fire Phil, I don't think, but I think they just didn't renew his contract, and I think that he just left, and I think they fired Sarah. They should have fired Aaron Greenberg, and they should have fired Matt Booty.
Interesting.
I think it's weird that you have. It's like sports, like you were saying. I could finally talk about sports with people that
understand. Oh, I know. Let's go. I've been watching something. I've been watching so sad. You've been like, damn, you guys can't talk about that.
Well, it's just so annoying. So I'm like, when I have a reference, I'm like, do you watch sports? Right? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, fucking Christ. Does anyone watch sports?
Anyway,
the analogies, they go hand in hand.
They really do.
They really do. Yeah.
It's like keeping a coach and firing a GM.
Yes.
Or firing a GM and keeping a coach. It's often weird. Like usually you want to do it at the same time, or at least have the GM hire the coach, and then they're kind of together and they sync together. You know, I think sending these guys out to it's talking out of both sides of their mouth would be putting it lightly. I mean, it's like they've said everything. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. Like, for instance, people bring up the Aaron Greenberg Starfield is always going to be exclusive kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't think he was lying. And frankly, I don't think he's lying about Gears and Clockwork Revolution. I think he is saying what is true now with the understanding that it could always change. That's just semantics, really. I just think you should just have someone else saying it. This is the person who did the marketing for all the failed things that you guys like. This is an Xbox, blah, blah, blah. That's him. I'm not saying it was he made those decisions. I'm saying like he deployed them. Right. And it's the same with Matt Booty. Like the Xbox's creative output is unacceptable. And I, honest to Christ, cannot understand how he has his job. Like, they have an enormous number of studios. They spend way more money than their competitors on their first party games, and they have nothing to show for it. Really, nothing. I mean, like, they have nothing on the level of a Last of Us or a Mario, or like, you know, like they're reliant on the same 3 franchises that they were reliant on in the late Xbox and early Xbox 360 era. Forza, Halo, Gears. Forza, Halo, Gears. It's what I always say over and over again. I'm like, about Sony, it's like, stop with this fuck. Like when, like with Sucker Punch with Ghost, like, that's it. No more Ghost. Ghost of Yotei was great. No more. You got to move on. You always knew when to move on. It was one of your great advantages. We would have never gotten The Last of Us if you stuck with Uncharted all those years, and we would have never gotten Uncharted if you stuck with Jak and Daxter, and we would have never gotten Jak and Daxter if you stuck with Crash. You know? And so I look at the creative output, and I'm like, these guys are not capable. Like, for straight up, Matt Booty's not capable of doing this job. I don't know. Like, it's the proof's in the fucking pudding. And I don't know. I thought that Jez always says it's like, look what he did with Mojang. And I'm like, cool, man. Send him fucking back to Mojang and get someone in there that like can manage the creative output of your teams. You know? So I wonder what you think about that axiom though, about they just talk too much. And that's one of the major things that I'm surprised about. You have to communicate a little bit. But every day over the last 2 weeks, I've woken up and I'm like, holy shit, they've said something else. And this doesn't even comport with what this guy just said. And this guy said something that doesn't really make any sense. It's like, we'll get to it later with Matt Ball saying like, we can't make enough Xboxes. It's like, yeah, okay, Matt. So it's like, to me, I look at that and I'm like, what are you doing? If you want to communicate, have a very cogent strategy and shut the fuck up otherwise and go away. I'm surprised. I'm personally really surprised by it. And I know for a fact there are people in the industry outside of Microsoft that think it's hysterical. You know, like what are these guys doing? Like, and meanwhile, like the Nintendo and Sony just don't say shit. And it's like talk nothing, like from their competitors. And I think it's a major problem. Do you believe that axiom is true or false, Cog?
I disagree vehemently. I mean, I just think it's overblown. I think that it's trying to, it's the expression of like, you know, there's only one way to win. There's only one way to win. And I get it. Like they've been unsuccessful. I get it. They're the third place. They're the challenger brand. I get it. I guess the way I built is I like transparency and information. If you are going to give me information so I can help me understand why you're doing the things that you're doing, I enjoy that. And here's the thing. And I don't, like, me and Matty, you know, even you to an extent, we're YouTubers, so to speak, right? The content goes to YouTube, right? One of my biggest pet peeves is if something goes wrong with my money, my monetization, what I've invested into into the platform, I have not one person I can go to get an answer or a human contact or a phone. Like, that infuriates me. So I don't like the idea of saying, shut up and let the company that I'm just giving money to just be silent and ignore me. No, I don't subscribe to that. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, there's balance, right? There's going to be, you know, times where it's like, okay, you said this, now 6 months later, you're saying something else as far as a strategy change and this, that, and the third. I get the frustration with pivots. I do. I'm not going to sit there and say that's not valid, but I vehemently do not like, and I hate to be personal, Colin, but it's just like, you just went through one of the worst things I've ever seen with your account. Mm-hmm. It broke my heart. I worked at Meta. There was a team dedicated to say, hey, if someone's having an issue, yada, yada. Sony has none of that in place.
No, not at all.
I think you would appreciate if there was communication from the top level, say, hey, we at least acknowledge that we have a security issue. We're working our hardest to fix it. There are many people suffering in silence. Mm-hmm. So to me, I look at it as investment in the brand. If you are invested here, you live here, you buy the platform, you invest in it, you appreciate when people actually talk to you. it means something. It means something to have a fan fest, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't exist. Like literally the Lord Cognito name would not exist because I went to a fan fest to say, hey, they have something in place for their most loyal, dedicated fan. Wouldn't you be happy if Woody Johnson sent you a message and say, you are one of our most loyal Jet fans? As a result
of motherfucker, but yeah, it would be interesting to hear from him.
You know what I'm saying? It would at least say, look, as a token of our appreciation, Colin Moriarty, right? Here is something that we want to show you, whether it's inviting to MetLife to do some celebration of the 25th anniversary of Al Toon's catch or Joe Davis.
Of our last playoff berth.
Of our last. Remember when Joe Davis had the finger up? Yeah. We hear that's the Xbox prayer. We're the Jets. So it's just one of those things that I will always champ. I don't want us to get into this thing of telling people to shut up, because if you allow corporations to run wild without any pushback, without any communication, oh boy, to me, it's the YouTube stuff. I can't stand it. So that's number one. Number two, as far as like the whole situation, as far as like, where do they go? And you know, Asha, the whole thing, it's tough. You know, it's tough. This is where I think we do align, because I don't know how they get out of it based on the hand that has been dealt. We talked about supply chain. We talk about, you know, the RAM situation, right? And then to your point, I'm in 1000% agreement with the gear situation. Look, I love exclusives, right? Yeah, that's cool. But that game constitutes live service to me. It's co-op. It has a multiplayer component. They just announced a 12-player horde. To your point, when you say, how do you explain to that team you're going to make less money, right? That's a tough sell to the coalition. Also, where I do agree with you, and we'll get to the Matt Booty thing. I'll talk about the other part of our line with you as far as the sports analogy with the GM and the coach. Let's say, you know, you keep in Matt Booty, but, you know, he's from a different regime, so to speak, right? On one hand, I'm like, okay, Asha doesn't know enough about the business. It's clear. She's been brutally honest that she doesn't know about the business. She's still learning, right? So you got the guy ahead of content strategy. I guess the issue that I have is that you need him on one hand, you know what I'm saying, to produce the games and do what you got to do. But I do understand, to me, I look at Matthew Ball as who she's tied to, and Matt Booty, not that he's going to be removed or anything like that, but in the short, 8 days or 2 weeks, Matty, that Matthew Ball's been here, he said more than I think Booty has ever said, you know, period. So I at least I feel I have a concise strategy.
And he's corrected people when things out there.
And this is the energy I'm getting. The thing about Matthew Ball that I like, that I didn't like through the Phil Spencer area, is Xbox felt a little too above when, and I hate to call people out, but let's just say the prime industry journalists, or, you know, people who kind of like I'm just gonna say it, the Schreiers, the Shinobis, there are people who, you know, when we get the news from them, we go, okay, take it to the bank. This is it, right? And that's what I'm going.
Yeah, and it seemed like Shinobi kind of misquoted him, which is unusual. Yeah, which is
unusual, and I love Shinobi, right? But it's just one of those things I've never seen. Xbox leadership in the past felt a little too above correcting misinformation. I like that, because what will happen is these narratives start to run wild, you know what I mean? And you got to get a hold of that. Again, corporate 101, try to control the messaging. So you got that. And then the last part about the Booty with the, the output and stuff like that. I'm mixed. On one hand, you are correct. They have not made anything close to like a blockbuster style, Last of Us style game outside of like a Forza Horizon. That's really their best game.
Yeah, Forza Horizon's their shit right now for sure. Yeah, and that's Forza, because they basically got rid of Turn 10. So it's like that is kind of the future of the franchise, which is so interesting.
100%. And if it comes down to the cold hard business, yeah, you're right. They haven't, you know, they're what I consider in sports. You know, they hit a bunch of singles. You know, you get a double,
small ball.
Yeah, you know, yeah. That's Xbox's, you know, lineup in terms of financial success. Now, what I like, and again, it's not good for the business, but it'll just be being selfish. is I do like game diversity, right? I like when you have all these different titles. It's cool to me. I love that stuff. That it makes me love the ecosystem more as opposed to the same style game, over and over and over. And again, that these games cost money. That's the biggest problem they face. And I know I'm rambling. The last point I'll say is that in terms of what, the tough decisions and the 100 days is about to happen, that's what I'm looking out for, because I think Matty, you said it earlier too, they're going to have to, they're going to make the tough decision. I'm looking at the double fines. I'm looking at the compulsion.
Yeah, compulsion, I imagine, is finished. Unfortunately, I was actually in preparation for this. I was looking at their studios, and I'm like, that is the studio. Like, it has to be.
I'm terrified for them. I'm a little worried about Obsidian and staff reduction, based on the things that they had 3 games.
Yeah, which I was gonna say, they're like the Insomniac of Xbox. Like, that would be so stupid for them to. I don't think they're as good as Insomniac right now, but they're putting games out. And Pentiment, by the way, which is the least important of the games, I fucking love that game. I love that game. I think that game is awesome,
bro. I will wake up grown man tears if I see Josh Sawyer, Furcos and those guys gone. But I have to embrace myself with the reality that if you look at them objectively and take my BlackRock selfishness out, outside of Grounded, and I know their games don't cost as much as the rest, like a Coalition's, but if remember, Asha's, the gift of the curse of her is she may be able to make the tough decisions that Phil won't, because she's an outsider.
Right.
She may look at the spreadsheet and say, what is this?
Right.
You know what I mean? And you went multi-plat with Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed. That ain't moved. The only thing on your spreadsheet that looks productive is Grounded. That looks like the hit, but is that enough? Is because it's small, you didn't spend enough money with Adam Finicky and those guys, and you just made a little bit more. But if it's about the tough decision and the big franchises and we gotta be profitable, I'm worried.
Yeah, I totally understand that, because it's ironic that Obsidian's most stalwart game is the game that no one thought they should make. When it was announced, and it was like, what? Why don't you make Alpha Protocol 2 or something? Like that.
I was hating. I was like, who wants this? Honey, I Shrunk the Kids garbage, and then it ended up becoming something. I was like, oh, it is actually good.
Yeah, and Grounded 2 coming to PlayStation will be interesting. Grounded was one of the games, because I would say half of the PlayStation ports did poorly to fair, it seems like, and then half of them did pretty well to great. And Sea of Thieves and Grounded are 2 of the games that actually did pretty well on PlayStation. So I would really, you're right. You said it so well, is like Obsidian's not a sacred cow to her. But I hope they are loyal enough to them to realize, like, at least you are putting games out, and the games are well liked. They might not sell the best, but you're doing it. Look at some of these other fucking chucklehead teams that haven't been putting anything out. It's the same thing with Sony. I can't even believe Media Molecule exists anymore. I say that fucking every show. I've been saying it for like 5 years. Like, what are these guys doing? So, by the way, before I go to Matt and get his thought on the axiom, we're going to be here for a while, I think, by the way. I will say about the Sony thing, you're not hurting my feelings by bringing that situation up at all. And you're right. Like, part of the reason why I feel like I have survivor's guilt in a way about it, for lack of a better term, is because, like, I used my connections and got it fixed in a way that most people would never be able to do. And that's why behind the scenes, and I don't think Sony would ever tell you, but they would if they could, is like, I've been annoying. Yeah, sure. And I don't know if you saw, they're hiring like anti-fraud specialists, and there's no way that's a coincidence. But I also understand their lack of, to be fair to them, I also understand their lack of communication, because they can't really acknowledge it. It's almost like a challenge. Right? We fixed it. Like that kind of thing. Yeah. These are the people that had to literally unplug the PlayStation Network from the internet in 2011 because they didn't know what was going wrong. And then it was off the line for 6 weeks. So I wouldn't put too much, like, if you use their websites, like you use PlayStation.com and stuff, you can see all of it. It's like, this is all fucked up. So I'm not defending that. I'm defending their communication strategy in that overall, in that right. 2 good examples are like, all the games that got canceled, the multiplayer games, they've never acknowledged any of them. It's as if they don't like, they never announced them. So they're like, I don't know. Yeah, Twisted Metal got fucking canceled. We never announced that game. We have nothing to say. And then the other thing is the PC stuff. It's like, yeah, we're not putting our games out. I heard that last year, like that they were thinking about moving away from PC with some releases. And it's like, well, they're just going to do it. They haven't acknowledged anything. They're just not going to release the games on PC. To me, that's a good communication strategy. Like,
I got to push back again because sorry to interrupt. It's just that, again, we get into the semantics of the right way to do things and the wrong things, but you yourself and even me and Matty agree, like, I think we all agree the live service push was a disaster, right? So if there's...
Yeah, go ahead. I think, there's a caveat, but I'm going to let you finish.
There's I take that back. In the sense of...
They executed it badly.
Right. We know that they had to do it because this is where the industry is going. And if you get one of them, right, you hit, and I get it. But I guess my thing was that the result was still the same, even though as far as not working, a strategy not working. You take a home run. I call the home run swing. You took the home run swing, 10 live service game. It didn't work. What I'm trying to say is them not communicating wasn't a factor in the success. That's what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, you got to put the ball in play. You got to execute.
Sure.
That's all I would go for.
Yeah, no, that's well put. I think we share the same audience, but the sacred audience knows that, like, I believe they made the right choice in pursuing games as a service and spending a lot of money, billions of dollars. I think it was totally worth it. They just couldn't have executed it any worse. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? That's the problem. Buying Firewalk, huge mistake. Said at the time. Buying Haven, huge mistake. Obviously, they're like afraid of fucking re-revealing the game, obviously. Break-in, it's going to be called now. And I've known people that have played Fair Games extensively. It's not supposed to be very good. So we'll see how that goes. It's a shame because, they destroyed Bluepoint with it. Bend wasted a bunch of time on a multiplayer game. London got shut down over a multiplayer game that they then kind of released. I don't know if you saw that. I mean, that game got released by the team independently. No one gave a shit about it. So that was the right choice. It's like, you shouldn't have deployed any of your resources, first party resources on this. You should have just gone outside and done a bunch of second party projects, 10 of them. That's what you wanted to do. And then just gauge them all, like Arrowhead and Helldivers. And sometimes you lose. Like, Arrowhead is too big for its britches now, for lack of a better term. They don't want to be with Sony. It's clear that Sony would have probably tried to buy them and continue it, but like, that's the risk you take. But at least the game's big and you made money, as opposed to investing too early. The Bungie situation was awful. I was horrified by the Bungie acquisition. If people go back to those podcasts, I was like, I cannot believe that they bought Bungie. I felt sick because I was like, it seems like a good idea, but you just spent, for Sony, more money than you've ever spent on all your acquisitions combined on this. And it's obviously it's blowing up in their face. And a lot of the reporting is that they were in the red even when they were purchased, which means that Sony has never made money on them. So it's just a complete loss. So I don't want to defend any of that. I'm just saying if you don't tie yourself into a pretzel, there's almost a mystique to it. Like, I will give it to them, is that, like, there's a mystique to Sony, but you have to kind of earn it. And it's kind of annoying, and the thing is that the mystique thing is going to get old real quick now. And that's what I was saying earlier about political capital. It's like, they have none. Like, they're out. They're all out. Someone vacuuming in your neighbor vacuuming.
Yeah. Shout out.
I remember.
The vacuuming.
Oh yeah. I remember those. All right. What do you think about my axiom, Matty, about over communication? It's Microsoft's compulsion to, pardon the pun, to pathologically speak.
Yeah, it's to me 50-50. I'm not like in a full pushback because I agree with Cog that there's not like a right way to do it. But there are moments like what we saw with Greenberg and Gears where I'm just like, you're full of shit. Like, I said to Cog on the show, I was just like, this guy is like, I don't fucking believe a single word. And I don't know why. I mean, this industry in general, we all know because we have worked within it for so long, and we've had the experience with games PR. This industry will lie straight to your face like it's the most normal shit. I fucking hate lying, so I always take it a little personal. I'm like, dude, fuck you. Like, I know this is a bull-faced lie, and like, I'll stay professional, but I'm just like, fuck that. All right, like, but that is the industry we work in, and it carries into the public so often. And I think Xbox is very brazen with that. And in shit like what Greenberg said, where he's just like, no, like, this was not a haste. Like, I just like, dude, what do you even get out of this?
Yeah, it's weird because it implicates him in a way of like, either you're lying or your people are incompetent because they still made a shit ton of mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he didn't think of the alternative. Like, you are the VP of marketing. So you either made a seismic error or you're lying. None of these are good. There was no win.
It's like, it's so weird. It's like retailers didn't even know that you pulled the game, the SKUs, right?
Yeah.
I told my audience on the last episode of Sacred that I had heard that Gears was being pulled last week because it broke containment, because people, within Sony's family knew that it was happening because they had to. I mean, I don't know the full detail of it, obviously, but it's like, you would assume you have to they were going to probably set this page live on PlayStation Network. Like all that stuff existed. And so what's funny is that I have connections at Activision and I have connections at Bethesda, but I have no connections really at Xbox itself. I heard the Gears thing last week from people, a specific person reaching out to me. So it's like, it was a big deal that it was happening. And it seems like, I don't think it matters really, but it seems like Sony and Microsoft might kind of be agitated with each other right now over a few things.
And really quick,
please,
obviously we talked about on Duke. To Colin's point, we even heard to the fact that the way it was structured was also Halo Campaign Evolved was supposed to be shown on the Sony State of Play and not on the Xbox Showcase. And from my understanding, from what I heard, was that was also something that was pulled extremely last minute, because they just I guess Asha's regime, they didn't think that was a good call. But yeah, that was supposed to be a play. So to your point about the relationship even being a little fractured with Sony, because they were like, wait a minute, you promised this was a spot, we had this set here kind of thing. So I remember the director of Halo, Matty, he had a PlayStation. They were excited.
Yeah,
that studio was excited.
They were. I'm sure they were. I mean, and by the way, we'll talk about promises and breaking promises and keeping promises, and they're kind of messaging around that later. But it's like they literally said all future Halo games are coming to PlayStation. That's what they said. They said it.
Yeah.
So talking about, we want to keep our promises and our previous commitments. It's like, okay, we'll see.
Sorry, Matty.
Yeah, Matty, go ahead, please.
You're good. Just to build off that a little bit, because I don't buy into the whole, this fractured their relationship. I'm sure Sony's not agitated or not getting these games, or that the pages are pulled live. I'm sure they're agitated because they know that the absolute death blow it would be, and like that is what pissed them. They're like, fuck, we had them. Fuck, they wisened up a little bit. Like, we had them. Not that they don't already have them, but you get my point. But to build off that a little bit before I shift to the more positive, I also don't believe that what Matt Booty said on the Xbox podcast, where he sat down, is this obvious marketing beat for like the hardcore community. It's a 10-minute conversation, barely. And he's like, yep, no strategy updates at the showcase. Like, we're just talking games. Hog and I were just saying on Duke with Brad, we're like, what are we talking about? You opened the show with a strategy update, a major one at that, and you ended your show with a repeat on the strategy update. And then the first post from your CEO was a strategy update. It was a showcase built around a strategy update. So what are we doing? Why are you saying no and then doing something else? Seems pretty last minute to me. So that combined, I'm like, look, dude, they're full of shit most of the time. That said, there are points where I do like their communication, and is why I largely prefer maybe they don't give everyone, but like, I don't need to hear from Aaron Greenberg. I don't care what he has to say. I don't care. Really, I care about Matthew Ball, Matt Booty, and Asha Sharma. If they're the ones talking, I'll listen. I think the problem, though, is that they're not funneling enough still. But what's good about Summer Game Fest is, as I said, they all had consistent talking points. Like, I was very critical. I was like, okay, they're basically saying the same thing, expanding upon it in slightly different ways, but they're enough in the same ballpark where nothing's really getting spun out of context too heavily. And the one time they tried to, Matt Ball put it out. That said, there's comments Asha Sharma made that I think are important for leaders during this specific time we're in to recognize. Her saying in a conversation on Fortune, like, look, I don't think the average consumer can afford thousands of dollars to spend on like hardware and a few games. I'm like, that's what I think people really want to hear right now, is like a recognition that this hobby should not be nearly as expensive as it is. And I know a lot of it is out of our hands with AI, but that is the time where communication is good, because it sets the table for what people are hoping is going to finally be a little relief in extreme measures. I imagine things like, memory not sold in the console, no controller, more OEMs. I think people might be ready to embrace that stuff if the price is somehow lower. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. They could be making a hardware acquisition of some kind so that they can move themselves up the priority list.
More M&A. That would be wonderful.
They already
said, by the way, I have to go get the door. I'll be back in 1 second. You guys
go for it.
Keep going.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I think the M&A is on the table because they said it was, but they were talking more about engineering, right?
So, right. And did you see the third party? How can I word it? They use basically what we would consider the third party money hack.
Oh yeah. They're back.
You saw that part? Like,
yeah. I missed that the first time we went over it. I was told that it's funny when you were reading all of the Xbox recipes, I completely blacked out. I was just like reeling over the Brad curse.
Bro, I rewatched that clip. Shout out to Astro Parrot. Like 10 times.
Say, it was so good.
It was so good. And the timing couldn't have been better. And then Brad just sitting there. Yeah. When you did the loop, I lost it. Because you were like, oh no.
I actually felt guilt. I was like, dude, did we actually like do this? Like, this is
we're playing with fire. Like, you're like a kid who playing with an Ouija board and there's some shit.
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit, there are spirits in the room.
Spirits in here. Oh God, Brad is real. The Green Reaper is real. Continue. I'm sorry. Let's get back on focus.
What's that all about with Brad?
Oh, tell him, man.
Okay, so every time Brad is on the show, something bad happens to Xbox. So we've been building it up with a
thick bad.
Yeah, like very like step on a rake. Like they're going multi-plat. They're hiking the prices of consoles. Game Pass prices up. Anytime I play with Brad, this happens. Now it's usually preemptively. So we've been building it up on the show for the last few months. Like I've kept Brad away deliberately. Like he's been like, hey, can I hop? I'm like, no. I said we're doing you after the showcase. I said we need to have a good showcase, but I want to see what happens. So the episode we bring Brad on, we're literally sitting down Wednesday, and I'm sitting there, and I get a DM from my editor. It's Jason Schreier breaking Xbox planning major layoffs while Cog's in the middle of talking about Asha and, really strong start here. And I'm just like, oh my God, bro. Like, and this is happening now in real time. So it's an unbeaten record at LSM. Anytime Brad shows up, it's over. Like it's never a clean episode.
LSM fam clipped it. And like I said, Matty has his hands in his face, and he's just like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe it!" And I'm like, "What? What happened? What did they do?" And we like lay off. I'm like, "Oh, it's awesome. Going viral. It's awesome." Shout out to Brad, I love him, but it is. We did play with fire.
Yeah. And I'm getting like tons of. I know, like we're all getting tagged in it. We're getting tons of tweets now of people being like, you really had to do that. Like
they get back.
Like we're starting to buy into it a little bit now. We're like,
that's how
we
I feel
really
about sports sometimes. My shit with sports,
complete superstition now. Yeah, it's like you guys kind of fucked us up here. Like I'm like, I can't. It's like scary, but every time Brad shows up, like something bad really does happen. So it's just continuing. So we could continue to test that. We'll see where it goes. But that's the history on Brad on Duke. It's hilarious. But like I mentioned, Asha talking, I think. You also want to get to know her style a little bit. So I think it's important she talks a little bit. Matt Booty's always historically been like very away, I think, from the limelight. Like he does I think he does it a classic way, like very specific conversations. Like he did 2 interviews. They were both 15 minutes, gamertag radio, Xbox ready. And they were both basically the same thing, with all due respect to those gents. I like them all, but they were both basically same questions, same talking points, clearly pre-planned, clearly like very heavily orchestrated. Like I think Matt Booty's very aware of his public reputation is what I would say. He doesn't need to mouth off more than he does. Matthew Ball was given a lot more rope, but I don't know, the talking. I prefer it a little bit because you kind of get to know their tastes. You kind of get to get more clarity on their business strategy. I think it's just the volume of speakers, and at places like SGF, sure. I think it is better already than where it was before, where we had Satya, Tim, Amy, like all the Microsoft overhead combined with Phil, Sarah, Matt, Aaron. I was like, holy shit, dude. It's like 8 different people who feel like they have the same power and the same voice and are trying to utilize it. And then they're civil warring. So they're trying to publicly override each other so they can point and look and see. I don't feel that right now. There's a little bit of unity, which I think leads to it biting them a lot less. But we'll see. Again, we're already starting to see some definitive comments being made that you're like, okay, well, that could blow up in your face pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, I think Phil regime, I totally agree with you. I think this reign so far. I'm like keeping an open mind. But there's moments where it's like, I don't need to hear from Aaron Greenberg. You run marketing. Like, we care about the games.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm picking on him a lot, and I apologize, but like that's just sort of like I've said him like 3 times. Fuck this guy.
Yeah, but again, he's not like, this is what I was saying. It's like, he's not the grocer at fucking Publix. You know what I mean? Like, not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. What I'm saying is he makes millions of dollars, right? You're not destroying some random person. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, oh no, like I have a 4-year contract at $8.5 million, or whatever the fuck it is. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
People are talking shit about me. You know what I mean?
God, this is savage.
I just like to give a little grace, you know, because then when it's time to really have that talk, it's like, I've been fair to you for a long while. So therefore, like, WB Games is always my example of like, I've bit my tongue on WB Games for years. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. When they're like, we're shutting down Monolith, we have all this DC IP, we're not utilizing any of it. I'm like, fuck you guys. Like, all right, I'm teeing off now. Like, it's so stupid. So Aaron Greenberg, your days are numbered. Keep it up.
Yeah. By the way, just to be clear, I'm saying he's not a normal person. You know, that. Like you would obliterate. Like if you were saying these things about him, you would probably kill himself. All right, the next one that I want to get into, I'm going to combine these two because I don't want to keep you guys here for fucking ever. By the way, it's like 95 degrees out right now.
Yeah.
It's so warm.
The fuck, man.
I kind of love it though. After this winter, I'm about it.
Yeah, it's a lot. All right, so here are the two that I'll combine. Game Pass is an economically broken service. Doesn't make sense as it's currently constructed and must fundamentally change in order to survive long term. It is a central reason it will be difficult to turn the Xbox brand around outside of third-party publishing. And another one I had, and these kind of go together, I suppose. Xbox overexpanded its first-party family and false assumptions surrounding Game Pass, and demand for the overall Xbox ecosystem, putting themselves in a dangerous position wherein they command too many studios and IP that they can neither creatively or financially manage. These seem obvious to me, and I think seeing the numbers of the 3% accountability margin, which is that's their net income, right? That's just that's Microsoft speak for that, right? As I understand.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I hate that everyone is like mimicking that. I'm like, so net income. Like, we don't have to use their marketing speak, you know, like, that's really bad. And them saying that, I mean, Matt Ball, like you were saying, he was like, after they raised the price of Game Pass, they lost millions of subscribers. And Asha said that they were 8 months of consecutive losses. Horrible.
I was glad to see that.
Yeah.
I mentioned on Duke, I was very glad to see people actually like, because you go on Twitter and people were like, you should still be subscribed. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, this seems really bad. And I'm glad people spoke with their wallets because I think it did result in some level of change.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, Asha in the letter she wrote said, quote, "We will end this fiscal year at about a 3% accountability margin." So their fiscal year ends in after calendar Q2 at Microsoft. Down year over year. Excluding Activision Blizzard King, over the past 5 years, we have spent $20 billion on ongoing investments in our content platform and hardware subsidy. But our annual revenue has declined nearly $500 million during that time. Going forward, this cannot continue. End quote. I think the rubber has hit the road with Game Pass, in my opinion, and something has to be done. I don't know. The problem is that this is what I was saying about there's a series of poison pills that they must take. Like you get to this juncture and you have to take one of the pills. And the other major pill they have to take is on hardware, and we'll get to that later. On if they make a PC, if the PC is closed or open, if they have an OEM, or if they do it, like there's a bunch of pills for the hardware. But this is like, all right, the unfortunate reality for them, and I guess you'd have to be somewhat connected to know this, but we know this, is that during the FTC hearings, a shit ton of things leaked, including their assumptions of where Game Pass would be. So they can't hide from it. And what we know is that I'm pretty sure they're about 2.5x behind where they wanted to be at this point, something like that. And that's catastrophic. Yeah. And the way I explain it is subscriptions absorb losses for a while until they don't. And big companies often absorb losses until they don't. Amazon's a great example of that. And in the subscription lane, Netflix is a great example of that. But once you hit that certain denominator of like, this is how many people we have subscribed, the amount of money you can invest becomes almost irrelevant because you're just churning constant income and you have to feed the beast. But if you're constantly just feeding the beast under that line, then it becomes this loss leader for you. It changed the whole dynamic of the way Xbox players interact with their games. And I will say it, I've said it ad nauseum and I mean it, is like they made the right choice, in my opinion, doing Game Pass. Like something had to change. It's just that we're 10 years beyond it now. It didn't work. And I don't think it didn't work because it couldn't work. I think it didn't work because they didn't support it well. And they might even be the wrong company to do it. Might even been Nintendo might be the company that makes the most sense. Now, no one wants to do it economically, but I'm saying in terms of content, like the Nintendo people are Nintendo people. So if you had a Nintendo subscription service, that'd be fine. It's just that Nintendo would lose a lot of money on that too. I think it was clear years ago that it wasn't working. And I think that's why the Activision deal was so important, because I think they were like, we can't make the games ourselves, at least not the requisite games that we need to support it. So Bethesda was the first step of that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Bethesda's not what it used to be anymore. I don't think that Xbox has nothing to do with that, by the way. Yeah. But Activision with the Call of Duty thing and King, even with mobile, and obviously all the Blizzard properties, it just was insufficient. I just don't know what they do. Like, you either get rid of Game Pass day one stuff and make it more like PS Plus Extra. Now, PlayStation Plus Extra makes a lot of money for Sony, but people have to understand it's free money, basically. You're paying like licensing fees in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe in the low millions of dollars if the games are big, for this back catalog shit. These games aren't making any money for these publishers anyway, and you're not losing anything, right? Because like we know on our side, on PlayStation side, they put Horizon Forbidden West in the PlayStation Plus, and they said they lost $100 million doing it. And we also know that Call of Duty lost $300 million when it went to Game Pass. So I think they have to. It's time to make a decision about Game Pass, and I think either way, it's going to piss people off. Here's the thing. I think that if you don't stop selling your games on Game Pass day one, or putting your games in Game Pass on day one and make people buy them, I don't think you can turn it around. But if you hinder Game Pass, which is a steady flow of money for them, I don't know, man. It was, you can't do it. It's not possible. You have to sell your games. This is why they started putting their games on PlayStation. I mean, it's so I think that Game Pass has broken down the how commerce is conducted. And by the way, it has hurt everyone on Xbox, not just the people in Game Pass. Like, just look at the fucking numbers of that Alinea releases. Should you trust Alinea? And I do. I don't think they're always right, but I think they have a methodology that works. And I recently tweeted that they got Saint Slayer within 6%. And by the way, that's really hard to do with small games.
Yeah. So you tweet.
Yeah. So tweet. I'm like,
I always say, if people got a problem with Alinea, it's like, put pressure on the companies. We shouldn't have to rely on projections in this industry.
Right. And by the way, they're in business because companies subscribe to them because the numbers are right.
Right.
So it goes both ways, I think, for that. But I always think of I always keep calling it the Godfather, Mafia: The Old Country. And more recently, I think it was Pragmata and something else, where it's like, these games are selling like 5-1 on PlayStation. You can't, the user base isn't 5-1. That's a behavior, you know? And so it starts, it's no wonder why Xbox is being skipped by more publishers. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Matty, let's go to you first on this one. Is Game Pass, so my axiom on Game Pass being economically broken and the overextension of the first party to support it is untenable. What do you think?
That's a very difficult yes or no, because there is a level of using it to stop the bleeding in other places. But when you think of what they have fundamentally done to support the service, it does choke them out a lot of it. You know, we've already talked extensively about Activision, so I'll kind of leave that there. But that definitely is like as Colin said, a move that was to bolster Game Pass. I mean, we had that big conversation when Black Ops 6 was going to be day one Game Pass. Will they, won't they? And that was their big swing to sort of save the service. And what pulled them off of it was the lost sales, which has always come hand in hand with Game Pass. Like, you're not going to sell as many copies, but you're going to get more engagement, more subs, and you have a more recurrent revenue stream that can make up losses elsewhere. I view it a lot like Xbox Live Gold for Games, Games for Gold, I think is what it was called, where there was this weird period of time where it was clear it was not cohesive with where the business was headed. I remember Cog and I talking about it. Here's your games with gold for the month, while we're also here's your additions to Game Pass. And people are like, why the fuck do we have this when we have Game Pass, which is literally the same thing but better? I mean, in the case of games with gold, like they would actually straight up be like, they're yours to own. But otherwise it was such a minimal difference, and the library was so much bigger on Game Pass. There was so much more potential. The price was just a little bit more. Like, it just made way less sense to just be a gold subscriber. I kind of view it a little bit like that now. I think Game Pass will stay, just because, I mean, you got Persona 6 Day 1 Game Pass, so you're at least locked down into this until late next year. But I do think it will be a slow untangling. I think of the headphone cables, right? They're in your pocket for a while. They're like knotted up. I think it's going to be slowly undoing that all. I say that because we're already hearing rumors of a sort of a la carte Game Pass. And I think that is going to be used to specifically, at least for the short to midterm, target their first party catalog and being able to extract more value if you choose to play the games this way. There's no reason why Dustin Furman should have been able to buy his Game Pass subscription, play and beat one of your first party games, and then unsubscribe and get all his money back. I'm sorry, I'm not saying Dustin's a genius. You guys are the idiots. There is no reason why anyone should be able to play any game you've spent 6 years on and to be like, thanks, dude.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. I don't understand it at all.
There's pro consumer, and there's just being outright negligent. And I don't. People are like, well, that's great. If Xbox, I'm like, no, I don't think Xbox wants you to do that.
Yeah, it's like, I think it is literally the most pro consumer thing you could possibly imagine them to do. It's just a matter of if it's suicidal.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, it is technically, I'm not saying like, if people like Dustin are silly for taking advantage of it, or our listeners, I'm like, totally do it. But Xbox should be way smarter to be like, we invested tens of millions into this, the overhead, the buying of the companies. And you got, Brad got to play South of Midnight in the week it came out and fucking return it. And just, he paid nothing for that game. Nothing. And thousands of people do that. I know they fixed that since, but that is one of the problems that Game Pass had.
I did that too when I got Halo Master Chief Collection a few years ago. I was like, all right, I'm going to cancel. And then they're like, all right, here's your money back. And I'm like, I just played, like, I don't want to give you my money back. I feel like I'm stealing from you.
Yeah. You watched the full movie and then refunded your ticket. Like, it's just, it's unbelievable. Yeah, so I know they fixed that, but my point being is that this has been, they need to staunch the bleeding a bit. While it's helping them in other areas, it's clear that it's become, I always define it as the lifeline that then choked them out. It gave them length when their business was dying with Xbox One. Now we're at a point where the clear path forward is, what we've done all along is entertainment business. We need first and third party exclusives. We need to build our box more so people are shopping on our store more. We're making more revenue. We need more game sales. Subscription money isn't doing it as a primary business method. And I think it'd be interesting to see them take a look at what Nintendo does or what PlayStation does as other approaches to their subscription service. The problem is undoing it comes with pissing a lot of people off. Just like Nintendo, Xbox has a massive back catalog. The thing is, Xbox, I love it. Starting with the Xbox One was like, hey, any 360 game you got, certain OG Xbox games, throw the disc in. It's fine. Just plays. That's amazing. Nintendo's like, we're going to sell that to you. And you're not even sell it to you. You get to rent it, the whole library. You get to play your GameCube games, so you don't get to own them, And then this one random situation where they felt like making millions of dollars. They're like, we'll sell you Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green for $20. And it'll be like a straight up emulation. You can own that, but like, it's Pokemon. Like, they're going to make stupid cash on that. So Nintendo can get away with that stuff. But I think Game Pass is going to see some serious reassessing over the next year. I think they understand now, if they're too aggressive with it, thanks to what Phil, Sarah, and co did with the 50% price increase, that's not the pathway forward. They need to be careful with it. But I do think that it's not going to be rushed, but I do think they want to create it as a more supplemental stream, not the offsetter where they're too reliant on it. I think it's what subscription gaming is sort of for their competitors. I don't think PS Plus is a main source of income for PlayStation, as in above their first party catalog and kind of where they look for the big bump. I I think it's more along the lines of just like this helps with recurrent revenue to ensure the business is growing. So I do think Game Pass is problematic from where they want to be. And the problem really lies in that the years of messaging and what the service was at its absolute best in the early parts of this generation, where it was like, oh shit, now they expanded into third party day one. Like, the reality is they've kind of thrown everything at the wall to make this thing appealing. The great prices, the first party catalog, the built-in value, getting EA Play in there, like all that. I think a la carte might help a little bit because now it's like players can subscribe to this thing and be like, for me, I don't give a fuck about Fortnite and Friends, or I don't play League of Legends anymore, so I don't need the Riot part of the subscription. Why should I pay for that? But you're teaming up with Netflix and this show's coming out. Sure, I'll add that in for a month. So I don't know if anything fixes it, but I don't think you outright get rid of it because it makes too much money. But I do think they need to dramatically evolve what it's currently doing, because it's obviously in the way of what they want to do. I do think there's a level of like, there's probably some frustrating internal conversation that results in, if we could just like fucking get this thing out of the way and just sell our games, like, but obviously they can't, right? That's more than a Band-Aid rip, dude. That's a wax. Like,
yeah.
So
yeah, well said.
I largely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. It's funny because, again, like, just to reiterate what I've reiterated a million times, is like, I don't hate the choice. It's a shame. Like, it's not small domino, big domino with this, like the meme I love or whatever, where it's like, really the dominoes in the middle were all like unknowns, and certain choices were made, and who really knows if you could have ever done it successfully. But I just think a lot of the choices were poor. And I actually think Nintendo subscription is the strongest one per what it costs, like a true back catalog of legacy content. I agree with you, Matty, that like Game Pass can't go away. I just think they have a pill to swallow on if you change it or keep it the same. That's like, you either alter it into something like PS Plus Extra, or you keep it like it is now and you hope to God that you can find a way forward to make this thing grow more. And maybe it's all about pricing and those short to midterm losses financially, which
I
Matt
will
Ball talked about.
I will throw in there that I feel the hardcore is more understanding of the need of buying games. I think that has become a reality that they've accepted. And I've seen a shift too of like, even people with Gears of the Day, they're like, I'm not doing Game Pass, I'm buying it. Like, there's enough people saying it where I don't know if the debate would be so loudly, I can't believe they got rid of day one games. I'm sure a lot of people would unsubscribe, but I could see a world where they're like straight up done with that. Of course. I mean, over time, I think if you get rid of that and you're like, hey, these, and they don't even announce like what they did with Call of Duty, like the following year we'll put it on there. Like, if you give people a window, they'll wait. There's too much stuff coming out. And I don't know if that's good for us or whatnot, but I'm just talking from their perspective. Like, the problem they're running into, and I think Sony ran into it as well with their PC releases, is that sort of novelty of it wears off, and there's just too much content everywhere. It's not just about games, like movies, books, shows, our podcasts, even. Like, it's just so much out there for people to take on. They will happily pass the year's time and probably lose interest in that thing when it does release wherever they thought they wanted it on, because they're doing something else. But I do think day one, I'm a little reluctant because I don't know like the ins and outs. I would say it kind of has to go to get them where they seem to want to be. Not that I want it to go, but I feel like these two can no longer coexist, or we are truly running back a reskinned version of the Phil Spencer strategy through and through. I think there is a level of accepting like, okay, we bit off more than we could chew. Activision Blizzard King did not, get us in the spot we wanted to. We're actually making less money now. Like, our margins are terrible. Like, it hurt them. So there is a level of like getting back to the norm is actually a huge win for them. But after that, when you want to start growing, because they're not going to stop, be like 10% is fine. Let's just stay here for a little bit. They're going to want to keep going. It's like, you're going to have to sell stuff. So again, that's why I think a lot of this is user retention. I think they're going to get out of the business more because they're going to get a very small scale and target mega hits and make a shit ton of money. Like, we're not going to be wasting money on South of Midnight 2 or another game from Double Fine. We're going to be making a Fallout game. And that's going to make us infinitely more money than whatever we spend on it. You know?
Yeah, you're 100% right that the future of the HD Twins first party output will be mega expensive marquee games, because there's just no reason to do it any other way at this point. Look at God of War, Sons of Sparta, whatever the fuck it's called. I mean, if Alinea is right, it sold fewer than 200,000 copies. You think that Sony gives a shit about that?
I didn't know it was that bad. Wow,
a half a shit about that. So it's like, yeah, I totally agree with you there. Now, Cog, where are you on this about Game Pass, the poison pill, and the studios? What do we do?
Yeah, I love your analogy. I think both of you are saying some really poignant points, and this is kind of what I say. I love the analogy of poison pill because I think it's very accurate. I think that I've been telling the Xbox community, my hardcore base, that okay, you want exclusives. There's a price to pay. You're going to have to fundamentally change, and people are just getting caught up with the idea of the competitiveness, and I get that. I do like that, and for the record, y'all know I've been on record. I love Game Pass. Consumer Cog loves the idea of being able to try games that I would have normally not bought, right? And say, okay, because of this, I never would experience, Kunitsigami, which me and you, Colin,
God, what a game.
Amazing.
What a game.
Oh my God.
And Microsoft funded that game.
Funded that game, right? There were many stories like this from the publisher, the developer standpoint. You're like, wow, this game got a chance to breathe and give life and be on a storefront next to a Call of Duty and next to the other big heavyweights. And it's cool. But to your point, which we can't avoid the elephant in the room, you've always said this, Carl, I got to give you your flowers. You've always said it cannibalizes sales. It always, it's going to affect user retail behavior, right? Because now the concern I have, and I've heard this internally, but it hasn't been officially checked, but the concern internally is that the internal storefront, the Xbox user base is not buying as much. They're not making as much on the storefront as they used to, and Game Pass has become this problem. And again, this is where Asha's, her being a new person coming into this whole world, she's going to have to make the tough decision. She's been alluding that tough decisions are inbound. And I always felt it was interesting in her first initial statement about what it means to be Xbox, yada, yada, yada. Game Pass was not really mentioned. You know what I mean? It really was. Everything else of her core tenets, what I called it, Matty, the Book of X, the Bible 10 commandments that she gave out, as far as what it means. And I'm like, I don't see Game Pass there. Now, granted, that the reduction in price did happen, which is great. And as she immediately said, she's literally, her statements, if you look out at them, they're literally throwing the last regime under the bus. It's literally like, I've inherited a mess. I'm telling you guys what this mess is. I'm letting you know what our margins are. I'm letting you know how bad it is. I'm letting you know the RAM crisis. But the thing that I find very interesting, in order for you to get that approved by corporate, you had to give something up. What you had to give up was literally the undoing of the Phil Spencer era, Call of Duty. It literally showed it did not work, right? Because you decoupled it immediately, right? And say, now you're going to buy that. You know what I'm saying? So what I try to tell my Xbox brethren, it's like the monkey's paw.
Mm-hmm.
You have now opened the door to say any subsequent game that we view as huge, maybe Forza Horizon 5, maybe 6 or 7, or the future Horizon, anything we deem as huge, Elder Scrolls. Is Elder Scrolls too big to be in Game Pass day and date? And this is where I'm in alignment with Matty. Day and date may have to be the sacrifice. I do allude that they're going to do, Game Pass tiers as far as, obviously Matthew Ball's already kind of put out, he corrected in terms of the, that it wasn't going to be ads and games, but like a free tier Game Pass or a very low entry point Game Pass to get people in. I agree. It says it's going to be retention. It will fundamentally change, in my opinion. There has to be. They are literally. It's like the coach analogy again. Like the new coach comes in. If you were formerly all an offensive team, like usually the opposite new regime comes in, you're a defensive team now. You know what I mean? That's how it always plays. And she's going to get people to get on board with that message a lot. And that's what I'm seeing. So that's my prediction as far as Game Pass will fundamentally change. I suspect day and date will go. We have to look at what the big games that they will figure that will not be day one. And I think that's the short-term play. As far as your overarching question, I think it was in reference to the game studio family and, being too big to support. That's a valid axiom and concern because they did get big. The studio acquisitions, to your point, were all made to feed the service that is Game Pass, and however they figured it out, or whatever that magical number was that they're clearly two and a half times behind now, right? They did not achieve. So now you have to look at all the studio family and say, okay, who's producing? What do we need? I know the Minecrafts, the Age of Empires. There's certain ones that do really well. You know what I'm saying? But again, like we said before, the Ninja Theories, the Compulsions, the I don't want to put it into it. I'm not going to say it, but the Double Fine. Just say, they're going to look at them, and there's going to be a repercussion. There's going to be a come up. All I'm hoping for is, if possible, like with Tango, they gave them the off ramp to facilitate with Craft On, with Toys for Bob. They gave them the off ramp to keep the IP. Because I will say this, if Double Fine is one on that list, I was at GDC. Tim Schafer is industry beloved from a developer standpoint and Day of the Dev. That is his creation. You thought the uproar for Tango was bad? A Japanese studio? They will have so much PR, political bludgeoning that will go on if that studio is, and I get it, the business, Kill Keeper, I get it. Spreadsheets probably are the lowest. And
they're in San Francisco. It's tough, man.
Yeah, it's tough, bro. So I get it. Business corporate cog understands why that studio has to go, but the gaming sensibility, I just hope that they're given, something to give. And overall, where I'm going with this is that, yes, the Xbox Game Studio family will be significantly cut, and they keep alluding to tough decision, and that's how I internalize it.
Yeah, you're right about Double Fine. The way you feel about Double Fine is the way I feel about Housemarque, where I'm like, I think you can make the argument that Saros might never make its money back if the rumors about how much it costs are true, which is not that much. I think $71 million was the cost. It's like, that's not that much, but they're way off the mark. But hopefully you understand what you have and that you should just subsidize them and get to the next thing. Double Fine, they're in Helsinki, so that's a little bit different, expensive there too. But yeah, Double Fine being in San Francisco is tough, and their games aren't selling. But like, it's funny. Like, I was looking at the chart and I was like, Rare, and I'm like, no, of course not. Sea of Thieves, and then I'm like, and what they're doing in the future as well. Even if Everwild never worked out and all the rest, and they really have been a shadow of their former selves for decades at this point. That's just a ship at Theseus to me. But Double Fine is still Double Fine, the Double Fine we enjoyed in the early to mid, or the mid to late aughts, I should say. God, I love Costume Quest. That was such an awesome game, dude. That was such a wonderful game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was looking at them and I'm like, yeah, it's got to be Compulsion, unfortunately. And then I was like, Bethesda has no fat on it, so it's like, I don't know what you do with, if you're gonna eat. It's funny. I was thinking, I'm like, would it be ZeniMax Online, like, truncate, since they canceled their game? It's like, would you just lay off a bunch of people from that studio?
Not to interrupt, but yeah, I'm concerned. I had this conversation, I think I told you, Matty, like, my concern is also, even though we're targeting studio closures, I'm also looking at Bethesda and ABK in staff reduction,
right?
And I'm looking at, we talked about, I'm hearing Doom: The Dark Ages did not do well at all.
Which is too bad, because I think that game is rad. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know Matty don't like that, compared to the other ones, but but it was disappointing, and I know they're not happy with Starfield's PS5 port in conjunction with the free lanes and the Terra Armada, which again I love, but I don't know if the port was too late. Whatever it is, I am worried about the more outside of Indiana Jones. I am worried. You know what I mean? And to Matty's point, he's always been beleaguering is, they don't have a Fallout game ready to go, and we don't know what else go. So my concern is like more cuts for them as well, and we'll see. But I'm sorry, continue.
No, you're not interrupting me. I mean, it's good. That's good feedback. It's like, yeah, I think studio closures are one thing, because I think you could just look at it practically and be like, we simply don't need all these releases. It's kind of what Embracer realized, although it was much more severe there, where it's like, we actually can't, like when you really looked at it, it's like I think they owned 135 teams at one point or something like that. And it's like you can't release games with any logic with this many teams. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to cannibalize each other. I always bring up Square Enix in 22, 23 when they were just releasing game after game after game, like on top of each other, like week after week. And I'm like, don't you understand? Harvestella didn't do good because your audience for Harvestella just bought 3 of your other games in the last 2 months. I think Microsoft is going to, especially if they go a la carte again with their day one releases, will realize we actually do not need. It's what Sony's realized. Like you really don't need all these teams in this era. So I was looking at Beanox and High Moon as well. It's like, but do you interrupt the Call of Duty pipeline? Right. Because then you're still going to need heads, and then you're just going to have. I mean, they could look at it and say like, well, Beanox is in Canada, right? High Moon's in California, I think. It's like, well, yeah, but we could just contract to Korea or something and save a bunch of money that way. And I was thinking with the Bethesda stuff, I forgot. It's like, I was like, yeah, they own some of those like weird small iOS teams, right? I'm like, no, they closed those down, like Alpha Dog and Roundhouse or whatever. So it's like, there is nowhere, like with Bethesda, in my opinion, there is nowhere to go. Machine Games, id, Arcane, Bethesda Game Studios. I mean, this is like an all-star team of studios. It would be heartbreaking to imagine that they would do anything to those teams. It would be if you, and I said recently, I'm like, I'll be an id and Machine Games customer forever, no matter where their games are. It's like, I love those games. And I want Wolfenstein 3 so bad out of Machine Games. You bring up Bethesda Game Studios too, which is funny. They've obviously been mismanaged like in a major way. And I don't think that's Microsoft's fault. I think that happened. Well, yeah, you know more than.
I was gonna say I know better than anyone.
It's like well, you'll probably support what I say here, Matty. Is like Bethesda was a beleaguered asset when they were sold. They were in trouble, and so I think people like Pete Hines understood this and other people, but like I think you can't blame Microsoft for what has happened to Bethesda, in my opinion, per se. It's like. This was all like Starfield was a thing that was going on before Microsoft got involved with them. And it's funny you bring up Starfield's PlayStation sales because it's like, this is one of the things that they have to contend with. This is an important piece of data. And I keep bringing this up is like Starfield was allowed to linger too much. People didn't care about it anymore because everyone badmouthed it for 3 years. And then you tried to sell it to them. And it's like, well, you would, if you released Starfield day and date on PlayStation 5, you would have sold millions of copies. Now, I don't think Elder Scrolls 6 will suffer from the same reputational damage, but I see a lot of people being like Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive. And I'm like, to me, that is delusional, right? Mm-hmm. Like that to me, I'm like, no, there's no, I don't know, man. Like that's gotta be what, Matty, $500 million game at this point. You're going to really cut PlayStation off from it. That would be interesting. I mean, like good luck. You'll do well. You'll sell millions of copies on PC, many millions. But like to me, I'm like, I think that Bethesda needs revenue. Like to me, when I think about exclusives, I don't even think about Bethesda. And I think Activision's long off the reservation as far as that's
how I view it.
Yeah, it's like
those two are off.
The Xbox Game Studios games, I think, are the only ones that are on the table. And then even then, I think there's a little bit of disingenuousness about their strategy and what they're doing. There's this idea that like there are these these ironclad contracts that make people promise to release. It's like these contracts don't exist. I don't know what people are talking about. They exist with marketing deals sometimes, or like assumptions with the creation of physical goods for retailers, which is becoming less important. But you could pull Halo off of PlayStation. You don't have to do it. There's probably some sort of kill fee. You'll probably destroy your relationship with Sony forever. And that comes with a reputation or there comes consequences with that because you're probably going to try to sell your games on there and they're not going to like you very much. But it's like, that's why I think it's so conspicuous, the choices they made, because I was like, you could have just chosen any games. I think you're just choosing the games I think you think make the most sense and actually maybe not the biggest games. If you really meant it, Forza Horizon 6 would be the game, right? Or
yes, I agree.
Or Fable, which will both sell better than Gears, in my opinion. Probably pretty easily, I would assume. So I think that there's a level of disingenuousness to that too, but now they have to play kind of in a defensive posture about their own studios and this is what I was saying earlier about specifically, like, I don't think inXile probably had huge hopes anyway for Clockwork Revolution. They're a good studio. This is something new for them. And I think the game is really exciting. I feel a lot worse for the Coalition, but it's like I was saying, I hope they came in and realized, like, we realize what we're doing to you and we're going to have more sacrificial lambs and we will take care of you. But yeah. So anyway, let me see what I have next year. Oh, okay. Here's an interesting one. I'll be curious to see what you guys think of this. I mean, this gets all into what we're talking about right now. It's too late for a shift back to exclusivity to save the Xbox Series consoles, which enjoyed more than 4 years of outright exclusivity across a massive fleet of developers, including far more exclusive games than PlayStation produced from its first and second party games, or from its first and second parties. In other words, and this is something I really am curious about, because I know a lot of people, and you guys are excited about exclusivity, and I do think that there is a play of exclusivity. I think it's irrelevant. However, I think exclusivity is less relevant than ever, and that there's more about console and ecosystem velocity keeping people involved. So in other words, PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 to PlayStation 6 is a very linear stepping stone for people because their libraries are kept together. They have their friends lists, their experiences, their saves will carry over. I don't know that it's Uncharted. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are like, no, you stick with it because you're going to get like intergalactic and all that. I'm like, cool, that's going to be great. And we're excited about that. But I don't know that that's true. And all you have to do is look at Ghost Yote sales, which I think are good, not great, and certainly not bad. But about 5 million, it's like, well, that means that there are like 92 million people that didn't buy it that have a PlayStation 5. You can't really make the argument that like it's this major thing. It's not. It's a part of the adoption of the console and why you make certain decisions in a competitive landscape. But I say this only because for me, and I know a lot of people have been upset with me for years about this, but it's why I also get so confused why people think that I make arguments that I don't, where I'm like, I've been arguing for PlayStation to go multi-platform for the whole generation. Because to me, I'm like, I don't know, like, look at how well you're doing. It doesn't matter. You know, like, you don't even have any games. And so now they clearly disagree. And I think most of the audience disagrees as well. And I wasn't saying you go willy-nilly with it day one on all the consoles. I'm just saying, like, be open with it. Like, back catalog, gives a shit. They're going to be much more precious about it. But I think the exclusivity shift won't matter for Xbox Series. It's just too late. And then I wonder, like, well, why would it matter? Like, then it becomes about the new hardware. What is it? It's the next poison pill, right? Because, and there's two of them. There's two sets of poison pills, so four total pills. The first set is like, do you make a console or do you make a PC? They're two distinct things. You can't have it both ways. It doesn't work like that. So you have to make that. And I now they're talking about console, especially recently. And I'm like, are you really going to make a console? Because to me, I'm like, I don't know about that for you. You know, I don't know that you could salvage it. But then if you take the other poison pill, then you're presented with the second set, which is open or closed. Right. And either way, I think you lose there too. This is why I just think it's the exclusivity play is so strange to me. I guess what I'm saying, and we'll go to you first, Cog, is because I don't know that Xbox can really win with hardware again.
Right.
I think that they can make niche hardware. I think they can make OEM hardware or have other people make OEM hardware, but I do not think it will be a thing that will sell 30, 40, 50, 60 million units. I just don't think, I think those days are gone. And therefore the whole approach to exclusivity kind of seems like it's cutting off your nose to spite your face.
These are the $1 million questions. I love this part, you know, because again, how do you make it work, right? These are all valid points. And I think that, you know, taking my inherent bias as a hardware guy and a console guy out of it, the business of it, because there's a part of me that was feeling that they were going into a boutique route initially, where still being a major publisher. And I was like, okay, I could see how that works. You've got your, you know, loyal base or your 35 million, whatever this, you know, strong, this very, you know, retentive number there. But the days of you maybe being, you know, this massive selling thing like the 360, you know, could be over. But then I got to be honest, like the exclusive double down is really surprising to me. I didn't see this coming. And at first, like, again, I listened to Matty more attentively. It's like he was just on Christopher Drake, and he's just like, this is not a one-off. We are setting up. So then, okay, in my mind, okay, well, what's the play? Like, okay, so if the play is you're setting up the base now during the Series X and S generation, which is a failed generation, and you're just trying to let the base know, okay, this is what we're doing. It clearly means that Helix, you're valuing in a different way, or you're looking at it different. And Asha has come out and said multiple times, like, you know, she's inferred that Helix may change what that is, because Phil's strategy was always, the most powerful box. We will never lose the power narrative again, right? Because he came from PS4 1080p, Xbox One 900p. We was there. That's the Gary. I'm putting you on Front Street just because of this part. But that's what we came from. And at that time, they had the inferior box, and they cost more, and they had a Connect-like spy device that people did want, right? So you had all these things that he literally decoupled, made the mid-generation console refresh with the Scorpio, right? And now it's like, okay, from this point on, we will never lose the power narrative. That's not what Asha's saying. Asha's saying supply chain, memory constraints, we have to still find out a way for radically different things, whether it be subsidies. She's mentioned subsidies as far as like making things cheaper. And I'm looking at OEMs. That's how when I hear radical, I look at the wrong ally, right? Is it a situation where in other markets, you get ASUS to make the Project Helix? Is Project Helix, which Jason Ronald has been on record for saying it's a first-party device, which I'm thankful for. I get my backup pack, I get my library. That's all I care. I'm with you, Colin. Like, the exclusive thing is cool. Long as I get to carry all my generations of Xbox games with me, that's all I care. But now I'm starting to think that maybe the play is Helix is the premium whatever, right? Maybe they have a Series S Helix, right? A different SKU. Maybe they have a modular one because we know RAM and storage are the issues, right? Maybe it's a situation we give you bare bones, third party ASUS, whatever, and also other regions and other global regions where they're not there. And this is much cheaper. You put your own RAM, you put your own controller, and you figure it out. Maybe that's the play. There's clearly a shift, I feel, as far as Helix. And we do know because of the RAM crisis, it's not most likely going to come out next year. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone's in this holding pattern. We see with the Steam machine, like they had to wait for a while. So yeah, this is a weird time. And to your point of, the poison pill and, do they ever get to that point? I think it's a strong argument. I really don't have much counter to that because I don't know how they get out of that part, especially with a brand that has been done is severe brand damage, right? And to your earlier point where, the base is confused. Are you fighting or, are you not? Are you a third party company? They have indicated that they are fighting, that they're being competitive. I just don't know how they get over the mark with the hardware itself. And if exclusives to play, yeah, are you going to truly make Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive?
I just feel like that's so it's unbelievable to me that they would do something like that. What a huge move that would be.
Yeah, the double down is very surprising. So I'm just here for the ride, brother. I'm here to play it out and see what's going on. But Matty, what you think, man? I don't know. I really this is strange. I thought we were at that point where we're saying it. We're like, oh no, we're fighting. I'm like, okay, we're fighting.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Matty, you muted.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
No, you good.
Breaking news.
Uh-oh.
This is actually not like sky is falling. It's very interesting. I think it's kind of topical. This comes from The Information. It says, as Microsoft gets ready to overhaul its struggling Xbox gaming unit, it hasn't ruled out spinning out or restructuring the unit as a wholly owned subsidiary, which could make it easier to sell or creating a joint venture with other partners, according to 3 people with direct knowledge of the discussions. Microsoft doesn't have any imminent restructuring plans, but those options are on the table, the people said. In particular, Xbox will move faster on developing new games from beloved franchises it owns, including Halo, Fallout, and Elder Scrolls, the people said. Fallout and Elder Scrolls are 2 particular areas of focus for Sharma. This is my goat, bro.
Focus on the big games, baby.
Keep this girl in power, bro. She gets it. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Chief Financial Officer Amy Hood have approved of Sharma's plan to spend more on top-tier games in the coming fiscal year beginning in July, although the budget is not yet locked in and could change, the people said. Nadella and Hood haven't ruled out restructuring Xbox's relationship to Microsoft at some point in the future, if doing so would make Xbox a more successful business, the people said. Options on the table could include making Xbox a wholly owned subsidiary of Microsoft, a joint venture, or spinning out Xbox entirely, the people said. Microsoft operates LinkedIn and GitHub as wholly owned subsidiaries, which could serve as one potential blueprint for Xbox, one of the people said. That's it.
Hiroki.
Interesting.
Hiroki Totoki is going to get on the plane right now. and say like, we'll put 25% into your new venture.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, very interesting. I guess
very interesting.
The reason
they can't win over there right now. I don't know what is going on with this, like this deluge of information.
It's crazy.
This is more than we've learned about Microsoft in years combined.
Yeah. I will say, because it's topical, the focus on big IP has been something I have championed for a while. I do like, I've always said I liked Game Pass because it let the South of Midnights exist. And I think that was an important part of their strategy. And it was clear with Game Pass, it was a have your cake and eat it too. Like, we'll kind of use this fund to support these smaller teams, and then we'll obviously fund the mega hits like a new Halo game. But I just never understood the whole buying Bethesda and not greenlighting anything Fallout or Elder Scrolls. It just never. I'm obviously a huge fan. I know a lot of people are like, it's your only sticking point with it, but I'm like, it is two of the biggest franchises in video games, and now with Fallout Entertainment, like they are kicking themselves for not touching this thing, and that does fall squarely on Phil. I don't know. I don't care if it's, well, I was respecting Todd or Obsidian or NX. You have 3 different internal teams before you even look to outsource that could handle it. But that should have been a hell or high water thing. I bring this all up because the thing with exclusivity, as Colin was talking about, I think it really depends how much you want to use these franchises as a beat stick. I really think that's what it comes down to. It's the same thing I said with Call of Duty. And what scared Xbox straight was, we lost sales because of Game Pass. But if they're looking to do the traditional exclusive model, and they're trying to do the traditional hardware model too, I don't know why you don't weaponize your biggest IP. You know, things like Call of Duty maybe remain immune, or they should, I should say. But if it's like PlayStation, where it's like, hey, single player narrative games are exclusive, I think Fallout and Elder Scrolls do fit that bill. And you lose a lot of money with Elder Scrolls, but are you more interested in bringing people into your box, or, as I said earlier, retaining people on the box so they continue to be spending customers there because they are tethered to that? If you continue to support Steam, I can tell you right now, 90%, not 90, that's a high number. Most players for Elder Scrolls 6 or any new Fallout game will be on Steam because mods. People do not want to go through Bethesda Net still. It's not mainstream acceptance yet. Honestly, mods move there a lot quicker, and also it's free. So I think people will still, unless they pull from Steam, people will be away from their storefront anyway. But I think that's what it really comes down to, is how much you want to weaponize these things. Because when I think about Xbox first party and what they currently have, it's, as Colin said, you have a lot of stuff from multiple generations ago. Gears, Forza, Halo are like your pulls, but I wouldn't even say they're pulls now. They're just established pillars. Like they are what keep a core there. But as for building new things that have brought people in, I don't think Minecraft's bringing new people in. I think it's keeping those people there. I don't think that like what Hellblade or anything, like I don't think that's bringing people in. But I think companies like Bethesda, one of the reasons they bought them is they do have attractive IP for the hardcore gamer. Your Wolfensteins, your Indiana Jones, your Dooms, your Fallouts, your Elder Scrolls. Like, these were beloved franchises. Like, Bethesda is it's why I'm so incredibly frustrated with how they've handled them. You had The Evil Within, Hi-Fi Rush was a new hit, easily something you could have built off of. These are things that you could have absolutely wielded as a beat stick and just like used over and over. But they didn't. I'll never understand why, again, in some cases like Fallout and Elder Scrolls, but when it was more traditional, when we weren't running into like hardware pricing issues, like why it wasn't just immediately Fallout ports, get them going. Like, let's put that exclusively on our platform. Like, let's get people love this shit. Like, let's get more of this on our platform. So it really depends where hardware ends up in a couple of years. Cause I think right now you can't produce enough hardware at a cost that makes it worth it unless you're like a PlayStation or a Nintendo that's so screeching far ahead and running by their own metrics that they don't care what the competition's doing within a certain realm. Like, obviously they're paying attention to each other, but I'm sure Nintendo and PlayStation aren't like overly concerned with one another. They kind of operate in their own spheres. But Xbox, who needs to grow, is like, we can't invest enough in hardware right now to grow. So we need to keep people here. But when it comes time for Elder Scrolls 6, which is probably 2 to 3 years off, it's like, will we be in a better spot where they can mass produce units and use that as a tool? And I don't think, again, if Gears is anything to go by, I don't think they know until that time comes, because I think this business is very much in flux. So exclusivity, I think, can be utilized, but it just can't be as effective nowadays. Not even because people don't care, but I think because they can't produce the hardware to extract any values or benefit from it. And so they have to utilize other storefronts, which is what brings us to where we are now.
To me, it's the Bethesda play would be fun to watch if they, like, I love Fallout 3, but I don't think I'm like and New Vegas to a lesser extent, but I don't, or actually I like New Vegas even more in a way, but I wasn't a Fallout 4 fan. I don't really care about the Elder Scrolls. So like, I've been fairly fortunate as a PlayStation gamer that I haven't really been missing very much. That's what was so disappointing about Clockwork Revolution was that was one game where I'm like, oh, I think, and I was like, just in my mind, I'm like, obviously this is coming to PlayStation.
Yeah, it's
like,
my
so I was totally wrong about that. Yeah.
But it's like, that's the thing, is that they've had trouble making new hits, and I've been a strong believer in Clockwork since the first trailer. I was like, this will be a hit, like as in at least critically, and like how we play and enjoy it. Like I don't see Fargo and his team missing on this and being like, oh, it's just Vision's almost there. Like they're too good. That's a new hit though. And that's something that you can utilize. That's something that they have lacked, which is also why I think they may have used it as a pull. Because again, you look at Halo, like Halo's fucking buried, dude. Like it's just in a really shit spot. Like it's not a pull anymore. I think it'll get people in, as in like, I think Halo Campaign Evolve will do well. It's a remake and it honestly looks quite fun. You know, like I told Cog last episode, I was like, hey dude, I'm the biggest hater of Halo. I think they know it, bro. I don't get any like, early hands-on opportunities with them. Xbox usually hooks me up with them. It's suddenly just radio. So I'm like, okay, they got the message. Cool. You know, but you got to create new hits to pull people in, and it has to come from them. You know, with Bethesda, the thing that you could wield is that you've bought them. They are there and they've been around long enough. And again, with Bethesda, one thing they can lean into is like, I'm sure this bothers a lot of people, but like I was just telling Cog, I was like, I can't stand the whole like Matt Booty or Phil Spencer saying at the end of the last two showcases, like a franchise that's been with us since the beginning, like Call of Duty and Xbox have been these close partners since day one. It's like the most I can remember is you guys got map packs early. Otherwise, Call of Duty was just taking the money anywhere they could get it. And Bethesda actually has that from the beginning partnership, because when Bethesda was about to go out of business, they put Morrowind out exclusively on your platform, Xbox. And then they did Oblivion exclusively on your platform. Like, there is a history of from the early days of that company, you know, and when it was finding success and who its partners were. So they could lean into Bethesda a little bit more.
Dude, bro's gonna be mad at you, Matty.
Why?
Oh, they pushing back at us. They didn't like us. They did not like that. We didn't like that Call of Duty was at the end. Dude, I got a strong pushback onto it. They were like, I will say this. Listen, I agree with you. You know that. It's just that, like, I guess for whatever reason, this particular Call of Duty resonated with that hardcore.
People
base.
Love Modern Warfare.
You would agree with it. Please just don't show it. That's the one more thing.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah, people think. I mean, that's today's online environment. I'm not saying never show it or never I'm not. They're stupid. They're not going to take their biggest franchise. I thought maybe it would miss this showcase because they already did like a big reveal for it. But I'm like, they're not going to take their biggest franchise and do literally nothing with it. But like ending the show 3 times now. The developer direct and then 2 show one more things, like that's stupid. That is you can be excited for Call of Duty. I won't take that away from you, but that moment is always reserved for the hardcore. That is tradition. That is an unspoken rule.
Yeah,
it is a mistake to start framing it like Call of Duty's been your day one partner. You guys got this long tenured history of working together. It's like, just you guys want to be that person so bad. You're not. You bought them. I guess that gets away from the point, but yeah, with exclusives, I think it could be utilized to help them, but I think their hardware is in an awful spot where it's not even about sales. It's about just making enough hardware, where I think they can't justify the investment. And so certain exclusives that could be used to dig them out of the hole, might not do the trick until it's too late.
It's interesting. You're positioning it differently, because one of my axioms here that I wanted to bring up was, there is absolutely positively no demand for the Xbox Series consoles, requisite to claims made by Xbox executives suggesting that they can't make enough machines. Like when I heard, I think Matt Ball said this and others, it's like, you don't want to say people are lying, because I think, first of all, they have fiduciary obligations to not lie. Right. I think it's wildly disingenuous to say that. I think, though, what you're saying, Matty, makes it make a little more sense. And what he's saying is like, we can't push too hard because if we push too hard and then their demand is made, we will not be able to fulfill the demand. I think that's a pretty rosy way of putting it, because as we understand from Moore's law, and I think that guy Kepler might have reported this and others, it's like sales have been so bad for Xbox Series consoles that at certain times they've stopped making them completely, which is
not putting them on sale during the holidays.
Right.
Black Friday.
Because like when I read that thing, he's like, we can't make enough machines. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, to me, I'm like, that is nonsense. They're like taken at face value. You can go to any storefront right now and buy one. What are you saying? Like I went and looked yesterday when I was preparing for the show. I'm like, Amazon, Walmart, Target. Like, it's like, what are you saying? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's so I that kind of bothered me a little bit, just because I'm like, what are you saying? You know, it's why I think they're in a catch-22 though, because it makes a little bit of sense if what you're saying is, and I think this is true, is that, well, about Helix, I think there was an idea of what Helix was, and I think Helix exists, like what it is. It's Tom from Moore's Law is Dead reminded me of this and taught me a lot about this too, is like, you kind of can't just walk away from the thing you're making. At some point, you're locked into it. Because I was asking him about PlayStation. My perspective on the major problem I think Sony has moving into the next generation, and they have some huge problems actually, but a major problem is that there seems to be no demand to move off of PS5. Right. You can already see that people by the tens of millions, there might be more active PS4 players than there are Xbox Series players right now, which is fucking crazy. They refuse to leave the console, and slowly games are not going to work on it anymore. So I think, so it's like Genshin Impact, for instance, was like, we're leaving. Yeah. Sony finally bit the bullet and stopped selling MLB The Show there, which is why I think MLB The Show's sales are kind of weak this year if you look at the Alinea charts. Yep. They didn't have to do that, and that was maybe stupid, but they've been holding on for actually far longer on that console than they did on PS3 or whatever. So they're trying to make the moves to move people over, but I don't think there's a demand for PlayStation 6. And I feel like this generation feels to a lot of people, including me, somewhat incomplete. I also think that there are diminishing returns on generational leaps now. It's not like SNES to N64 or GameCube to even Wii, or certainly Wii to Switch 2 or anything like that. If we're using all these Nintendo references, it's not. We already have 1080p 60 frame gaming as a regular thing on the consoles now. You can get it, you can ray trace better. You might be able to get it up to 4K. You can use PSSR to make things nicer and all that. But it's like, and then the economic situation is conspiring against all these companies simultaneously. But what he was saying was, and this makes sense, it's like you lock in all this shit a long time from now, and it's not even about the components, it's about your place in line at Foxconn or whatever. It's like years ago, Sony sat down like, we're manufacturing the first run of PlayStation 6 consoles here now at this point. This is we paid for this little slot, and then we have all of our contracts lined up for all of the pieces. And he's like, you could stop, like you could cancel it, but you have to get back in line. You have to redo all the contracts to get new components. Because what I was basically saying to him, I was like, what if they just were like, we're not going to release the PlayStation 6 as it's currently constructed at all. We're going to release PlayStation 6. It's going to be a different PS6, and we're going to release it in like 2030. Wait and see what happens. Meantime, we have PS5 Pro and of course the regular PS5. So I wonder if, I'm saying all of this because I believe 100% that Sony's releasing the PS6 either next fall or spring 28, the latest. Mm-hmm. They have to. I wonder if Microsoft finds themselves in a similar position. And what I think they're saying between the lines, and I think I might have wrote down the quote somewhere. Yeah, and it's what you were saying, Cog. Asha said, we are in a hardware component crisis. When I joined as CEO in February, the price we paid for console storage components was over 2x as high as we paid last fall. These costs have since doubled again. And as we plan for the 2027 holiday season, we expect another significant increase, taking us over 5x the prices we paid only 2 years earlier. Memory costs have followed a broadly similar trajectory. While the entire industry, this is the interesting part, while the entire industry is facing a components crisis, we believe we have been impacted more greatly than many of our peers due to the choices we made over the last half decade. And then she says, we are currently unable to make as many consoles as players want to buy. And we need a new business model and partnerships for hardware to remain as committed to Helix. This is what I think they're saying. I think when they speak about consoles and buying consoles, I think they're talking about the overall market.
Right.
And Sony sometimes has shortages of PlayStations, specifically PS5 Pros. This also happened with PS4 Pro. I just wonder what they're, I guess this is a long-winded way of saying, I wonder if they're just going to walk away from that original machine and that the consequences are less costly because they were less invested to begin with. Because what she's saying here, and the way I read between the lines, is the choices they've made is to not make a lot of hardware. And I think they've lost their economy of scale, and they're probably premium slots at the various manufacturers in Taiwan and China and Vietnam and wherever they're making their stuff, to the point where it's like, well, maybe, and they can absorb so much loss as a Microsoft company that they're like, maybe it makes more sense for us to make a console. And this is what I'm wondering, you know, like,
this is what Jimmy's theorizing.
This is Jimmy theorizing too.
He was hitting me up he was like, I think they're just going to do a console. Like,
I mean, it is interesting. I'm sorry, finish, Colin.
No. I mean, that's basically it. Like, I don't. So in other words, I don't think what Sony's going to do is in flux. In fact, I think part of the reason why Sony is so boring to talk about in the last couple of years is that like everyone kind of knows what's going to happen. You're going to get a PS6 console and you're going to get a PS6 handheld that you put in a cradle and it connects to your TV. You can play it remotely. We all know it. Like, and so now they're leading it, and we all know when it's coming out, and they're locked in. And Sony can't afford to fuck around with all of those things. They don't. The advantage Xbox kind of had before Activision, and they can still have again, maybe, is that they were kind of under the radar at Microsoft. Sony is the exact opposite. They're up PlayStation's ass. Without PlayStation, they're done. They're done. So they're locked in. Xbox can actually kind of make adjustments and hit them where it hurts by maybe making a cheaper device. Because this was always the thing that made no sense about Helix, is that Helix sounded like a $1,000 plus machine, right? That is being sold to an audience that has qualified value as an important part of their experience. You don't really hear value as a PlayStation thing, not because people that play PlayStation have more money or anything like that, but because they understand they have to buy games, right? And Xbox was like, no, we're even going to sell a console that's cheaper than the regular console, and we're going to give you this subscription model so it is very affordable, right? And then they're like, now the next piece of hardware is extremely expensive. It makes no sense. Like you have a value cognizant, conscious audience now that says that that's important to them. So I think they almost have to change. And so I wonder if what they're really saying is we're just going to make more Xbox Series X's and ride this thing out for a while.
We'll see. I mean, this is the theory. This is the $1 question. I love it because, again, to your point, you know, Helix, the name of it suggests DNA, the intertwining. And the thing that I was always interested in is how they leverage Windows into this situation, a world where Steam exists and a world where the PC base is so unwavering loyalty to that storefront, right? And how do your margins work if you have, you know, Clockwork Revolution on the Xbox store, and will it be available on the Steam store? You know, how does that work? And then to your overall point, as far as like the console itself, and is it a situation where they go back traditionally or make something cheaper and then couple it, you know, with the Game Pass service and things like that? There's all these choices that have to be made. But I am starting to slowly believe that, even though, to your point, and everyone else, like Moore's Law and all that, like they are committed. They have to do something. Helix is coming, right? But the question is what form do we get Helix in? That's going to be the thing for me. And is it more of a traditional console where she walks back? Because one thing I'm starting to see, she's a bit of a maverick. She has no problem walking things back in her mind that don't make sense and what she wants to do. And that's going to be the key because, again, with the RAM crisis, with the supply chain, I'm wondering if it's a situation where they try to do some form of subsidy now, because to your point, everything in the prior generation was always premium product, expensive, you know, kind of thing. And that to me screamed off-ramp. That didn't scream that you are really trying to compete with hardware. If you're trying to compete with hardware, you have to subsidize. You have to first have it available, and you have to have it subsidized because it's so expensive. And that's the $1 million question. So yeah, that's what I want to see from this. That's what I'm going to be monitoring from this regime. How do they tackle Helix, and is there a metamorphosis of what Helix actually is? And if it's more traditional console, and if it's more closed ecosystem, and if it's more inexpensive, and I'm not spending 50, hey, I'm for it. I'm willing to see what it is. I don't know how competitive it will be, but I'm willing to give it a shot, kind of thing. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I wonder if Asha came in and saw that there was a fundamentally, this is what bothered me so much, because people always people insult me all the time on the internet, as they insult all of us, but they never say, they never go after the things I say. It's always like about this stuff, it's always just me and being a fanboy or whatever. But I always thought the major question about this new machine was how games were sold on it. And
You've always said that.
And I don't understand what people don't understand about that it is over for them if they don't sell their games through their own storefront. And yet, if you release a PC that doesn't give you access to Steam or closes it down, no one's going to buy it. And if you give people access to a PC in which you can have an option of where you buy your games, they're not going to buy them from you. And I wonder if she saw that and she's like, we can't do that. Like, to me, that's a Phil seemed like they had them in a capitulative stance, like a posture. It's like, this is over.
Yeah.
And ultimately we're going to do the right thing by our people. And we'll be like, yeah, the games will be on a Xbox store front, whatever, and you can buy it. But like, we all know what's going to happen. Right. And I remember even saying, it's like, it's so crazy that they would do that, to the point where they would let you make an option on whether you pay them 100% for their games or 70% for their games. Like, that is literally, they would literally give you the option. It makes no sense. I don't give a fuck what anyone says about that. That is like a fundamentally unsound thing that made no sense. And I think these new people realize that if you want to fight, if you want to capitulate, then that's what you do. And that's a stance. And that might be the safe way out, because what they might be saying is like, we have the power to be the biggest third-party software publisher in games. And that's awesome. Who gives a fuck about the console? Like, just sell it everywhere and give our people a way off. And like, we'll have a little, some anecdotal touchstones of Xbox stuff, but like, we'll be Microsoft Gaming. We're going to sell our games and you're going to love it. Maybe our core player base is going to feel disenchanted and even abandoned by that, but wait until you see the sales numbers. And instead they're like, yeah, we could still do that. See, that's the thing, is that's always the break glass in case of emergency thing for them. Is like, they can do and they are, I think, going to do one last try. And then like, it's not over for them like it would be over for a Sony. Because it's like, well, we actually command enough of a publisher presence where it's like, well, this could just be its own thing. And and we go back to our little niche of Microsoft. And that's basically it. So it's kind of, I don't want to say it's zero risk, because that's not true at all. They spent a lot of money, especially on Activision, but it's to say like, it's not existential for the parent company. The idea of them spinning off and finding new partners is fascinating too, because I would imagine that there are many willing participants in that scheme. To extract, I don't think people even give a shit about Halo. I think the Bethesda stuff, like you were saying, was the stuff they want.
It's just waiting to be monetized. It's waiting to be utilized. It's been so underutilized. I think that would drive Todd out. I'll just throw that out there as well, as the nugget people aren't going to be talking about. This man's very protective of the idea of waiting to get something. He thinks, I think Bethesda knows that they're behind technologically, but yet there's still large anticipation for their stuff, and that whether it be the surprise drop of Oblivion Remastered last year or how long you wait for their games, that excitement overrules objectivity. And I think it is why when Oblivion came out and you had people like me saying, I really like this, but there's a lot of problems, people didn't want to hear it. They just want to be excited, which is totally fair. I'm not trying to rob their joy, but I think a guy like Todd knows that is a major asset to their games, and that if they start to release them more often, like really often, you're getting a lot of Fallout games from different partners, that it's no longer special when an Elder Scrolls 6 shows up or when a Fallout 5 shows up. It's just another Fallout game. And I do think that does disenchant him a little bit. That would be my assumption.
I'll give you this to add on. We do know part of the reason the ZeniMax deal that got done was because of Phil. The relationship with him and Todd and the owner that I believe passed away, I forgot the gentleman's name.
Yes.
From ZeniMax.
Robert Altman.
That synergy was there. Now we're in an Asha Sharma era. there's no connection there. And to your point, if there's a mandate to now focus on the big franchise, which we agree, right? They should be a Fallout game ready to go, Elder Scrolls ready to go. But based on how Todd operates and how they move as a studio, are they going to be willing to capitulate to this kind of pressure? If you know what I mean, to deliver on the big games, these are the microaggressions. We're going to see how that play out. And some people aren't going to want to stay in that era, because I know Phil gets a lot of smoke, and rightfully so, for a lot of some mistakes he's made. But one of the things that got the studios there was their ability to say, hey, you get to create where you want. Right? And I use the analogy of like cool uncle, right? Maybe you're not the watching parent that you should be, and making sure everyone, because you're the nice guy kind of thing. But when new leadership comes in, and now they like, no, bro, what's up with these Fallout games? Where's New Vegas? You have one of the top Amazon shows going on. Why are we not maximizing and leveraging one of the biggest things we have from an IP standpoint? And you need to, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that type of climate.
Yeah, I mean, Bethesda, I'm not even saying this defending the ideology, but Bethesda specifically was like the reason we went to 76 and then Starfield. And mind you, this company is now starting to gain a track record, in my opinion, of kind of trying to rewrite their own history, like, retool it. Like they're calling Starfield the cozy game now, for example. I'm just like, if they didn't fucking sell it to us like that. You said you're going back to your single player stuff, but now it was more of an experimental title, according to Todd. And the Elder Scrolls 6 is more traditional. So it could just be a thing that's been going on for a while, and I didn't register until recently. But when they did specifically Starfield, they were like, the reason we went that way is because we weren't trying to do a vending machine, like press the Fallout button, press the Elder Scrolls button, and alternating between the two. It reads very much like that is the plan now. And Todd, again, specifically, is like very against that, so I'll be curious to see what it leads to. I've always wanted to see Todd go independent. I'll be honest. Like, I think Bethesda shell themselves. I think the guy still got it. I think he is wrapped up in a corporate enterprise of hundreds of developers across multiple teams, and their games are just not made to be like that. I would like to see him go independent. I feel like this could get him down that rabbit hole. Once he ships Elder Scrolls 6, I could see that.
Yeah, he's certainly vested and can go. I mean, that was, I think, what was keeping Pete there too. So it's like, he's not going to lose by doing that. And being unencumbered by the creation engine and all the technical bullshit that they deal with there too. But I agree with you. There are a shell of that's not an insult. It's like, it happens. People move on. It's like a band, and then you have like a cover band. Lost,
too many core members of that team that made their best games ever. Like I think a lot of people look at Todd and call him the problem, or Emil Pagliarulo call him the problem. Like I think that's fair. Like these leaders should be held very accountable, especially when they're making a lot of the key decisions for these games. And in Starfield's case, I think that is a game that shows how a couple of key decisions can completely alter the outcome of a product. Like if Starfield's 5 solar systems instead of 5 million, it feels like it's a totally different video game, right? And that probably plays more to fan interest, like a Mass Effect or an Outer Worlds, but at least on a somewhat bigger scale, like Bethesda's known for. But they've lost so many people. I mean, also these Bethesda studios collaborated. It wasn't just like who was in Bethesda Game Studios. It was, your Matt Firers, your Harvey Smiths, John Johannes, Shinji Mikami. Like, you had like fucking brilliant, long tenured people there that just got it and gave feedback to each other. And it's why there was that stretch of time in the early 2010s where their publishing label was like some of the best you could find in games, bro. Like it was just unfucking believable.
Generational knowledge lost that doesn't come back.
Yeah. So, I think this wasn't really necessarily on topic, but I do think that could push my man out. I could see that happening.
We'll wrap this conversation up, I guess, with this final question, which is, I have more axioms that we've already talked about all the topics. There's no reason to beat a dead horse. I'm curious what you guys think of what PlayStation, like from outside perspective of what's going on with PlayStation. I find it's a frustrating company to cover for me in a lot of ways, and has been for years, just because they say so little. And yet I can't blame them for that. I think actually the more things go poorly for some of their competitors, the more quiet they become, because I think they realize like, oh, we just don't have to do this. And if they don't expose themselves to like hard hitting interviews and stuff like that, then they don't have to answer hard questions. Like, why did you demote Herman Holst, or why does Herman Holst still work for your company at all? What's going on with your shitty acquisitions? Why are fewer people buying your games? To me, I think they are in good shape in terms of the public gamer zeitgeist because it is the default console. You see that kind of playing out on Metacritic. There's this idea, I don't, we use Metacritic as a citation, of course, but I don't care about review scores. But you see that like a game will come out and will have 100 reviews on PlayStation and 3 on Xbox or something like that. Like there's something dominant about that position. And I think they have very little to worry about from that perspective. And yet I think things radically change in this industry and they have to do more for their own player base. They fucked the entire generation up with their strategy. And they're very lucky that it didn't matter and that it doesn't matter. The only thing I keep saying is like, imagine how much better it could be than this.
Yeah.
And how much more they could be dominating. I will say that I think they do have other competition on the mind as well. I get really annoyed when people are like, why doesn't anyone want competition? Like we're talking about Xbox, like what about competition? And I'm like, you're acting like they're like all competition goes through Xbox. Like competition existed in the industry before Xbox and it's going to exist in different ways now. And I do think Sony is worried about Steam. And I think to a lesser degree, although to a more real degree, they're worried about Nintendo. Because the Nintendo thing is about handhelds and about their home country. And I think they've ceded their home country to Nintendo. I think they understand that. That's why they're doing their subsidized PS5 that's region locked to try to get more people to buy it. And now that they're going to make a handheld console that will be likely a dockable console, and there'll be a standalone console version of it too. But I think they look at Nintendo and they're like, yeah, we're coming at you now. And from a different angle.
Good point.
And then Steam, I think they're just worried about because I think it's becoming an increasing default. Per capita sales on PlayStation are far higher than they are on Steam for almost any game. But that's not what really matters. It's not per capita. It's like just total user base. And at some point you have a massive saturation problem where there are more people often online playing something on Steam than there are on PlayStation by orders of magnitude. And so I think they have a material problem about the future behavior of these new generations of people that are going to buy games. They like consoles, but they don't really like their Sony's games. Sony's biggest games are other people's games. That's why they want games as a service success. They found it a little bit with Helldivers, but not what they're looking for. So yeah, Kai, where are you? What's your view on PlayStation moving in the next now and into the next couple of years?
Yeah, interesting position. Like, I always used LSFA used to get mad. I used the coasting analogy. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I mean,
I feel like they've been they had some snafus for sure. Obviously in the live service initiative and stuff like that. But at the same time, the console's been selling, right? And for the most part, sales have been good. Now, first party is a concern for me. Obviously the output has been lower. Obviously this year they have two, some really big games. Obviously the Wolverine, and obviously I did like the Lao Fei, even though it was controversially announced.
I think just the leak kind of hurt it.
Yeah,
like it's kind of a bummer. And I also think it was a mistake for them to say 20 minutes of gameplay. They should have said 20 uninterrupted minutes of God of War, Lao Fei, or whatever. Lao Fei, whatever.
Yeah, the expectation and whether or not it, the title of the name. I think I have more issue with the name.
Yeah, the name. I don't like the name either, Cog, but I also understand that like it won't matter at some point. It'll just become that, and no one will talk about it anymore. So
fair. So I guess look, I guess Sony push, not even a pushback. It's just I like Sony pushed. I like. I don't like complacent Sony. You know what I mean? I do like them pushing. Yes, Nintendo is the immediate threat, but if Xbox is deciding to fight, I feel like that at least it's the correct heavyweight class, the weight class, so to speak, right? Because Nintendo technically, obviously, they've got that handheld market, family-friendly games, and they're doing phenomenally. I don't want to take anything away from Nintendo. They are truly that, and you made a great point about the home country stuff. But it's just as far as the next generation, the current generation and next generation console things, when I hear Asha and them talk about, hey, we're yes, M&A was mentioned, but the thing I paid attention to was more of the third party deals of what we consider the money hat, right? And I'm like, oh, you're willing to revisit that again? Because that's something one thing that people have been frustrated with the Xbox generation is that the kumbaya part, right? It's like you're doing kumbaya, but your opponent, your op, is trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Your op is doing everything in its power to take everything from
right.
you.
That's why when people say like, oh, if PlayStation's not competing with Xbox anymore, why do they do these third-party deals? And I'm like, because they want to kill Xbox.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that they're necessarily competing with them. They want to kill them.
They want to get you out of there, right? So it's just like, that's why part of me is like, again, I don't know. I'm not saying that the strategy is going to work and I'm just saying I just like the willingness to fight because I feel pushed, Shoni, is better for us overall. Now, to your point, what I do see that who they're looking at, and me and Matty's had discussion on Duke many times, Sony, in my opinion, is looking at Steam as the ops. Like we've allowed you, to get a little too strong. And we played nice. We did a strategy that we were comfortable with a 1-year single player, Nixis port. But we're not even really willing to do that anymore because your basic, our mindset, if I'm being Sony, what I was thinking, they were like, okay, we'll give them that. And that'll make them want the sequel, the new game, and make them buy a PlayStation because now they got a taste of what a PlayStation studio signed with. And what we've learned about the spending habits of the PC community is like, nope, we'll wait. We will not buy your console.
Sale just hit. I'm good.
We won't need the Steam community, PC guys. I'm sorry, I got to come for you. I've seen an Epic Game Store game for free. They're like, no, we're not touching the launcher. We're not opening it. We don't like
the ultimate loyalists.
Like, bro, like they won't even take a free game. The loyalty to granted, the ecosystem is amazing. The feature set is amazing. I can't believe dudes are saying no to free. Like, yeah, we'll wait and we'll see whatever's going on. And I'm like, okay, this is different. Now, the thing that Sony does have to worry about is, like you alluded to earlier, Colin, is that, as much as I know the hardcore base doesn't like the live service stuff, they do need like the Helldivers and the stuff like that. The concern, though, is that when you look at the Steam charts, you're like, damn, look at the disparity. Mm-hmm. Like, why? And even Marathon is breaking my heart. Not that it was supposed to be this massive game, but you just look at where are people playing these online games that are cross-platform on it? That it's like, damn, like, Sony has to do something to answer that. And I don't know if it's a user base thing where it's like, hey, we just like these story-driven narrative games and we don't really want to do that. And maybe, we'll just have Call of Duty or these third-party games do that. It is something they have to look at. I am concerned about that part long-term because these single-player games, one thing we learned about the Insomniac leaks, man, these games are expensive for them.
Brutal.
Holy, bro. And I love those games. I call them the hashtag just one game. Those games are amazing, but to mass produce, I just feel like it's not fiscally responsible to keep doing that. And I think Sony realizes that's what came out with the leak. So that's my biggest concern with them, just how they navigate that part, the spend. PS6 is coming, to your point. We're finally, I think this is the year we get what I consider the breakaway from the Sinister Six games, where those games that were cross-generational that made people refuse to upgrade to PS5, but now you got like a GTA 6. Now you've got certain games that's going to force you to move over, and I think that's the toughest thing they're going to have to navigate. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what.
Yeah, well said. I think the lack of Japanese presence for Sony is becoming a problem for them because I think they become so reliant on American and to a lesser extent Western European development that is extremely expensive, and they're seeing their competitors in like Capcom make a game like Pragmata or Resident Evil. I mean, I know I say this a lot, but I know it's just people that make games in Japan don't get paid a lot of money. These guys brag about getting, being like, we're now paying. It's state in
everyone got a raise.
Yeah, like in Japanese culture, like you're hired in a contingent of people and you're all paid the same, and then you like move up these tiers or whatever. So like people start at, and they'd be like, we're now starting everyone at $28,000 a year, kind of like in yen, and it's like, well, no fucking wonder you can work on a game like Pragmata forever. You're paying. Do you have any like the average salary in Naughty Dog is 6 figures? So yeah. It's untenable. And I think that it's a major problem for them. Like they have to, other than Polyphony, which is an incredibly important studio, they have no presence in the development scene there anymore because of Japan Studios exit. And I think that I feel like the games, the just one games that we are looking at, are going to be more and more made in Japan, South Korea, China, Eastern Europe, and maybe even start in places like the Middle East. And ultimately, Sony's doing a really good job, and they've been. I bust Sony's balls about everything, but they are very good about this. Is that they get into these territories first. They broke China open first.
Yes.
Now they're breaking open India, and the first India Hero Project game already came to PlayStation. That game, Fish Tank or whatever it's called, Fishbowl or whatever. And then they're the MENA project, and they've invested in Africa. So like they're there. And I think we owe. I unironically think we owe a lot to Sony for breaking China open, especially for games. They did it.
Oh, it's been huge.
Matty, where are you on PlayStation and their future?
I just wanted to quickly give a compliment. I like quite what you said about PlayStation, Nintendo. I feel silly for having that oversight when I was like, oh, they're not they are not concerned about each other, because what you said is so true about the kind of the home territory lost and the clashing of handhelds and how Nintendo has such a death grip on that, and they are target number one. And really, even if you're in second place to Nintendo, that is kind of significant, because I mean they're so far ahead on handhelds that I think PlayStation could be very well poised to just
remember
bring back the PSP and DS days,
right? Like the DS outsold PSP 2-1, and yet the PSP was a very vibrant and viable handheld.
Like there is a. It's what I talked about with the Steam Deck. I was like, when people are like, oh, it's only 6 million. I'm like, you don't realize the reason they're investing so much in handheld is because there is such a high ceiling there. If you can even be half of what Nintendo is, you're always in second place, but that's still a really great spot, and that's where PlayStation was. So I think they have the best chance. It's why earlier in this generation, when Cog and I heard the rumors of a proprietary like Xbox handheld, we were like, you got to beat PlayStation there. You cannot. And then when they went with the OEM with Asus and they delayed it, I went, it's fucked. Like, it's not happening. Like, they just lost their footing.
Right. That's because I think we can all agree. I mean, I could be talking out of my ass with this, but it's like, I think we can all agree that the last thing Sony would ever do is an OEM electronic for PlayStation, like of any kind.
Hard to imagine.
It would just be, it would be totally against their DNA.
Yeah.
I agree.
To answer your question though, now with PlayStation, I already know my opinion on them is not. I think it's very common, but I think a lot of people devalue it because there are certain games I haven't played because they're very similar to other games I've played, and I've talked about a blurring together and how I find their publishing label less interesting as a result. So I kind of want to take that angle because I find it very interesting when they are going back to Japan a little bit more, having a specific unit for that audience, doing the state of play Japan. We see them kind of trying to, in a weird way, like I described Xbox having their cake and eat it too, with like Game Pass and the smaller things versus like the mega hits. And I think PlayStation's kind of fighting with the weird side of themselves that kind of got them to the dance with also sort of what their Western audience wants, which is more God of War, Laufey, more Wolverine, big budget, third person over the shoulder action adventure games. And so I do find myself excited to see like what kind of, like, I love, for example, the Marvel Tokon partnership. Like that's the stuff I really like out of PlayStation is this sort of, they have a really great eye for like, you're good at this. This could be a thing that people are looking for. We will fund it. Let's all get together and make this happen. Arc System is the best in class fighting game developer. We haven't had a Marvel versus Capcom like game in a while outside of the collections, or I mean, I guess you can count Infinite, but it was so far from what it originally was that I think a lot of people were disappointed in it. And here's like an actual full Marvel roster, and let's lean into the kind of mixture of anime and superheroes. And people know us from Spider-Man on PS4 with superheroes. Like that stuff's awesome. Same thing with Spider-Man and Insomniac. That was my dream pick for the longest time. I was like, Insomniac is just so ready made for Spider-Man if they could write that story. And at least with the first one, which I quite liked, I thought it was perfect. I was like, this is the dream Spider-Man game. Building off of that, I have become a little more disenchanted with PlayStation software, really starting with Spider-Man 2. To me, that is a game of half measures. And I also caught myself after the fact, might I add, was very happy at launch. And as time went on, I thought about it more and I would talk to Locke more and I'd kind of talk with friends. I just realized more and more, I'm like, this game wasn't what I thought it was. I was just very excited about like more of a thing in Spider-Man that I was already getting, but all the stories feel half finished. That particularly irked me a lot. I don't need massive evolutions in gameplay, but when you're going to keep it the same, then I'm going to put more pressure on your writing and on your storytelling. And I felt that with also a combination of like, the opening of the game with Sandman being just kind of like cinematic on rails, not really leaning into the Insomniac strength of just fun gameplay systems. It just felt like a really strange Spider-Man game, in my opinion. That made me start to really assess how I felt about other titles in their portfolio. And as I saw them get announced, I think what PlayStation did was the most logical move, and it was very safe, which is like, you like Death Stranding 2, you like Horizon Forbidden West, here, Horizon Zero Dawn, here's Forbidden West. You like God of War 2018, here is Ragnarok. And Ghost of Tsushima, here's Yote. There's nothing wrong with that. I always really enjoyed the generational reset from PlayStation, though. They always were very fun walking, because they are the company to me, and why I am strict on them, and why, even though I usually don't like double, triple, quadruple down, but even in the face of a lot of people yelling at me, it's why I will not budge on the fact that every generation they reset. There's a reason like Sly barely came back in PS3 and it wasn't Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch was working on something entirely different. They were on Infamous, and to their credit, they make it worth it when they move on, right? I have not played all the Uncharted games, I know, sacrilege, but
really,
I did play Uncharted. Yeah, I've played 1 and 2. But when they moved on to Last of Us, that got me in. I fucking loved The Last of Us. They always made it worth it. I didn't miss Jack and Daxter because I'm like, The Last of Us is fucking exceptional, dude. Like, absolutely incredible. So when they just kind of go to a run it back position and they don't have is that on the level of roll it out?
Roll about, run it back. Continue, sir. You always make me laugh at them.
Run it back, to me, it was the obvious choice. It was the safest choice in a development environment of bloating budgets. I get totally why they did it, but as a fan, I can't sit here and act like seeing the third, I found it similar yet worse written version of God of War showing up to be genuinely thrilling. I enjoyed 2018. I got the platinum trophy for it. Ragnarok, I do think I would like. But I'm just saying, like, Zero Dawn was not super well written either. It was like a cool little dinosaur robot thing. I really had like a lot of fond memories of that E3 demo, but like seeing them all show up again, I'm like, okay, we're just like, I feel like I've seen all of this before, because I have. I played it all during the PS4 generation and platinum multiple of them. There is a totally fair argument to be made. I think a lot of people think like my stance is definitive because I'm just deciding they're shit. I'm not saying these are shit games or people are wrong for enjoying them, but I do yearn for a more experimental library. That is what I look for. So what really drove the point home in a recent conversation was when I saw the state of play and I was like, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger on the video. I said, I know people are going to be upset with this, but like, I want to just kind of talk about where my head's at and just see where the community's head's at. And a lot of people did agree with me, but I think just as many disagree with me, which was like, I said, it's all blurring together. Like, these games are shot the same. They kind of feel factory made because they all are presented the same way. They don't exactly play the same, but we are seeing an overlap in mechanics. Like, they always have a buddy character since The Last of Us 1. Now we're starting to see, they open the show and close the show. One of the star features of both Wolverine and God of War Lao Fei is like knocking an enemy into your co-op buddy. Like, you can feel the meeting room that this was all discussed in. And they were like, oh, we're first party there. And they're like, hey, here's this feature. And you see it bleed together across all their games. And so it's not like, oh, this is the death knell, like tolling. Like, I think this is absolute shit. I just look at it and I'm like, okay, like it's like a one size fits all. It's an assembly line. It's a factory made thing, which I've heard PlayStation's worked to for a while. It's what kind of also drove me a little bit, even though they failed at a lot of their smaller titles, into the Xbox catalog, because I'm like, it's different. You're getting everything first to third person to puzzling and everything in between. Doesn't mean it's all good. Like, what you get there is a lesser of quality, but more diversity, which I've found I value. But it's not even about one platform versus the other. It's just really about, with PlayStation, I've found them to be taking advantage of their core fans with like the remaster packages, the director's cut upgrades, that sort of shit. and then kind of just dropping in more of the same and kind of expecting different results. Like, people really showed out for Tsushima, and I think they showed out for Yote. I think we just got, what was it, like 5 million?
Yeah, 5 million,
like
which is
yeah.
They're launched at different. I would say they're kind of equivalent to each other sales wise in terms of velocity. Just when you consider how many more PS4s were in the wild when Yote
and nothing wrong with that. Obviously, they're spending more on this company now in Sucker Punch, and so there is a level of like, probably for them, growing stagnation. Like they need to do what they did before, which is switch. But this felt like a tread water generation, and again, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong if anyone enjoyed Yote. Nothing wrong if anyone liked Ragnarok or Forbidden West. It's not about that really. It's just about that. I've seen this before, so it's kind of put me on the outside where there are select PlayStation exclusives I would jump into, but otherwise it's become, I think, not the most fun generation for them, especially with the infrequency. Yeah. The last thing I'll just stitch on is because a lot of people are. We had a really great write-in on Defining Duke, and it was like, Matty, there's not an issue with iteration, like just doing the same thing again. I'm like, you're totally right. Like, one of my favorite games is New Vegas, which came like a year and a half after Fallout 3, and that is literally reskinning the thing that I already loved, writing different characters for it, using the same tool sets in the same way like quests are triggered, cutscenes have, etc. Like, it's all the same shit. I know. I didn't have to wait 5 years for it. That's my point. Ghost of Tsushima came out in 2020 and it was superb. I fucking love that game. Yote took 5 years, and I will not speak definitively on it, but I don't get thrilled when I wait half a decade and I see what looks to be more of that same exact style. It's the argument I make a lot on Retro Rebound is like, when you see Naughty Dog was able to ship an entire trilogy of video games in Uncharted on the PS3 generation, and that was what, like a 7-year window?
Yeah, between Project Big I think was 2005. The launch of the first one was 2007, and by 2011 they were all out.
Yeah. So I look at that stuff and it's like, I'm not really letting go of those values just because the industry around me is changing. I don't think with such large workforces and powerful technology, we should be. I think it's great that there are companies that will spend years like perfectly honing their craft, or certain creatives like Ken Levine, I'll defend a little bit and be like, look, this guy will make it worth it. Like, there are some, sure, but I don't get excited for that. Like, when would Ragnarok come out? What was that, 2022?
Yeah.
So seeing another God of War game that looks very
extremely
similar in presentation 4 years later, I'm like, yeah, it's and I don't. Again, if I had more narrative investment, I can understand that being a factor for people. This is why I'm not casting judgment on them and being like, you're wrong. I know it's me. But I'm also not going to pretend after waiting half a decade of my life, of which you only have so many, that I'm going to be fired up when I see what looks to be a overlapping experience again. It's like, I would rather go try something new. I'm not asking them to reinvent the wheel, but if the development timelines are going to be this long, I'm hoping something stands out to me. So, there's games that will get me, like Wolverine, but Lao Fei, I felt no desire to go play Ragnarok. And that's a shame, because their PS4 generation, I missed nothing. This one I have comfortably missed a lot, because I'm just like, I don't feel the need to.
Saros is the newest one where I was a little underwhelmed by it, to be honest. I platinumed it, but it was I like Returnal more. I think you're exactly right. Uncharted is a great reference. Like I've always said, Sony's superpower is knowing when to move on, or at least it was. It seemed kind of crazy sometimes when they would move on from things. It's like, wait, what are you doing? Like, why are you not making this anymore? And then they come up with this new thing and you're like, oh. And of course with Naughty Dog, like they tried to have their cake and eat it too with them by doing Uncharted and The Last of Us concurrent to each other, and that blew up pretty quickly. So they were unable to even manage most of the multiple projects. But at the same time, it's like, you're right. Like it's actually more imperative for them to decide to move on now than ever, because the games take so long. And yet you invest this $200 or $300 million into these big single player games to start a predicate for a series, and you become trapped in them. Like Insomniac is trapped, in my opinion, with Marvel. And it's a good place to be. I keep saying Spider-Man 2 sells hundreds of thousands of copies a month still. That's why it's still popping up on the chart constantly. It's just selling copies like ambiently. You can't argue with that. Wolverine's going to be huge. And then they're going to obviously start their X-Men trilogy. I assume Venom will be a launch game for PS6, like a cross-platform Miles Morales game, leading into a third Spider-Man game, and then the Wolverine will lead into the X-Men games. So they're totally trapped there. Not a horrible thing, but you can almost, games take so long and are so deliberate now that you can almost see the roadmap where it's like, well, this is Insomniac. I mean, we'll get Ratchet. They're making it like very slowly. It's the same thing that Ghost Story's doing with Judas, where they're just making it with a small team very slowly. And it's kind of, the money is equivalent to making it quicker. So we'll get another Ratchet game. But you're right, like that. I think that's why Astrobot resonated with people so much, because it felt truly distinct.
It's also why, not to interrupt you, but it's so easy for me to forget, because it really does feel like a drop in the bucket. I forget about it every time someone brings it up. Is like, I'm not saying you're countering me, but people always be like, what about Astrobot? I'm like, fuck, you're right. I platinumed that one instantly, like without a doubt. It was excellent.
Right, but it didn't move the needle. It was cheaper, and it sold a few million copies. It's not, I mean, it's a game of the year caliber to a lot of people. I thought that was kind of goofy in a way to give it game of the year, in my opinion. I've said that many times. But I loved it. I just was like, this is a really special and interesting game. It's not kind of like that, I don't think. But yeah, I that's why I'm so interested in what I assume will be a last burst of games for the PS5 into the PS6. And I'm also wondering if they'll even, I keep saying this, like, I have a hard time imagining, like, intellectually, there has to be PlayStation 6 exclusive games, but I have a hard time imagining it. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if there weren't any. You have to wonder,
like, it's another version of a PS5 Pro to you,
right? I just wonder if, like, they are willing to take the risk of. It's what I keep saying. Like, you have to sacrifice something. You have to take a studio, and you have to, like, kind of be like, you're sacrificing you. It happened latently, but look at Blue Point. Like, they made Demon's Souls. That game had no prayer of selling a lot of copies because it was a launch game, and then yada yada yada. Goodbye. It's the same thing that happened to all the studios that supported Vita and the studios that supported PSVR. I'm not saying it's a horrible place to be. I just feel like if I were them and I was looking at the numbers and I was looking, like, I don't think I said this. I don't think I've said this publicly, but I talked to someone that works on Call of Duty, a buddy of mine. He was like, we're extremely disappointed that we can't make the game for PS4 anymore. Like,
wow.
Yeah,
really?
because they're like, we want to sell copies.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're like, our whole bonus structure is based on, like, we're cutting off like a major part, like a major corollary of our sales to finally move on. I feel like I would be, if I were at Naughty Dog or whatever, because some people are saying, like, maybe Intergalactic will be a PS6 game. And I'm like, that would be nuts. Like, to lock it there. And if I were Naughty Dog, I'd be like, under no circumstance.
Miles Morales.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Right. Like, well, I think Venom will be that. So I have a hard time imagining what they're going to do. And yet I think that there's going to be, like, the Santa Monica stuff was really disappointing to me, just because I had always assumed that they would want to do something else. And I think what is happening is that they really are just leaning into, like, we are the God of War team. And they haven't made any games outside of God of War since Kinetica. Kinetica was made, of course, God of War was made on the Kinetica engine. And ever since then, it's been all God of War from them. And I think it's just massively disappointing from that perspective. I think the new God of War game is going to be great. I mean, I want to like games, and I also appreciate and understand the pedigree of the people making these games. Like, I'm not a God of War fan, really, so you don't want to rely on what I think about it. But I was disappointed that it wasn't something new. And then to discover that Corey is probably not leading a project at all.
I didn't know that.
Because it seems like he's ascended to studio leadership role. And there's two types of those, right? Like, Neil is the head of the studio, of Naughty Dog, but he's also directing one of the games, and he's producing what I assume is the Uncharted game. So it's like, I just hope that they have a nice burst of energy at the end of the generation, and then it's given them enough time, hopefully, to reset. They do quietly have some interesting second party relationships spun up that I'm interested in seeing more about. People Can Fly is one of them. And I keep wondering if they're making Killzone. There's just something about that where I'm like, I wonder.
I like that theory. That'd be great, bro. We're all in agreement. Outriders kicked so much ass.
And I'm so bummed, like, the sequel got pulled or whatever it looks like. I thought that game was, dude, the story of the game is dope. Like, the whole idea of, like, the generation ships and, like, outpacing each other and stuff like that. Like, I thought it was super cool.
I still yearn for that feeling that game gave me, like, that movement and how kinetic.
Extremely underrated.
Then build crafting, as a person who loved min-maxing and messing around with my character, the skill trees and abilities, they really were innovative in the space, and they were doing some cool things. And I was over looking at Destiny at the time, like, yo, you guys, these new guys got
That's
some.
the thing, is that everyone thought it was a Destiny competitor, but it was really a Borderlands.
More of a Borderlands, for sure. But like,
everyone thought it was gonna be live service, though, myself included. When I played, I'm like, oh, this is just a co-op shoot. This is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah.
I loved it as well. Yeah, and
that's a good partnership.
Yeah, and so there's a few.
I think Xbox had them in their fold for a moment too.
Right, exactly. They made a Gears game, didn't they?
Yeah, but I'm talking about after that. But yeah.
Oh, anyway. With Contraband.
That's what it was. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, was
Contraband
Avalanche?
Was
Avalanche.
Right. They had them on. I'm forgetting. There's so fucking many teams for Xbox, dude. I gotta like always keep a spreadsheet.
So we'll see. I mean, like I think they wasted a lot of time, and it's too bad. But it is what it is, I guess.
Last positive note, I forgot. I do want to end on a positive with them. The thing that I actually am excited for is Moore's Law, the handheld version, the dockable. I'm excited for that. As a person. Yeah, I love Sony in that space. I did not like them conceding that space. I think all three of us are huge Vita lovers. You know, that's one of my favorite handhelds of all time. And for me, just where I'm at as a gamer in my life right now, it bothers me. This is why I love Xbox so much, to be brutally honest. The Play Anywhere stuff and having the extension of continuing my library outside of going to, and don't get me wrong, Portal, that's great, but I want something that's native, that could play these games at high performance. And you're saying that they're getting back into that, you know, that space again really delights me. And for the most part, now it'll be more comparative, you know, to the main hardware. I love to see that from them. So yeah, I will be there day one for the PlayStation had because I missed them. I was a PSP guy, Vita guy, all the way through. I'm the guy playing Metal Gear Solid Acid.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. That was the card game, right?
Bro, that was the bro. I'm like, I love them in that space. They were weird, they were quirky, but ultimately, I just want, like, what burns me right now, we just have limited time. And, you know, as a person who travels a lot, I'm like, damn, I really want to go back to Yotai, but like, I can't play it on PC, right? And then, you know, if I had the handheld version, I get all, like, that's what helps me finish games nowadays.
Yeah, handheld is so crucial.
Bro, that's why I love it. I'm like, yo, I can finish. I'm playing 007 on the joint. I'm playing Forza on the ROG Ally. Like, them back in this space excites me, and to help them compete with Nintendo in that market, let's go. Like that, I'm about that. So yeah, kudos to Sony for at least not giving up on that.
I'm happy that they came to that conclusion. I think they owe it to Steam, to Valve, and to Nintendo. I say this over and over again. It's like Valve proved the power differential, and Nintendo obviously has proved the commercial saturation of handhelds. And if Sony can meld those things together, which is what they want to do, then yeah, I mean, like, it is a PlayStation 6. That's what's so fun about it, is it's the PS6, and they're already preparing for it. Like the low power consumption stuff that they're doing on PS5 is in preparation for the PS6 handheld.
Yes. Shout out to
and so like when you see those little leaf icons or whatever, they're, now I always say they're selling it like it's a green initiative, but it's not. It's been pretty widely reported that this is in preparation for like the lower power consumption of the handheld. And I'll buy both the handheld and the console, but I wonder what people will choose.
That is a good point. Where the market will.
Because as I think I don't want to say
Portal
as I understand,
ended up doing really well, right?
What'd you say, Matty? I'm sorry.
The Portal ended up doing really well, right? So there seems to be a longing for that style.
Portal's a shocking hit for Sony, as far as I understand. Like they were using old Xperia tablets to make them, and they couldn't, which is why the early Portals, before they patched it, would come up as Xperia on your, like, it wouldn't even say like,
I didn't know that.
And and I think they were shocked, because I think it was a way for them to be like, we have this old shit we don't really need. Let's like try to we'll put a DualSense thing on and see what happens. And I think it was a surprise hit. And as I understand, I don't know if it's still that way, but they couldn't make enough of them. And they were also they'd only recently raised the price of it, even though they were raising the price of everything else. It just stayed at $200. I do say the Portal is exceptional for what it is. It really works. Like, it really does work.
I was just using it last night,
and I love it. I use it during sports all the time and stuff like that. When I'm like, passively watching something, but I don't really want to fully pay attention to it.
The new feature they added in the update, I think at the end of last year, where they were just kind of like, instead of just always remote playing, they were just like, if it's in your library and it's connected to your account, and I guess there's a box that these devs got to check, like, you can just stream straight from your library. So Capcom, they've been huge for my portal because they just support everything. And so like all of their games, even Star Force Collection, like it was there on my portal. I was like, great. Or you can pull from the PS Plus library. It's awesome. So yeah, that feature was huge because it really became truly pick up and play there, where I didn't even need to have my console on.
It's really cool. And I think what I was saying earlier about the handheld PS6 is like, as I understand, like it is dockable. So like that, I think that was what Moore's Law was saying. So like, you don't have to necessarily, like you could just choose that. It will be less powerful than the console, but you could have a TV experience with it, which is the thing they were really hesitant. I always say like Vita had an HDMI out on it. Like that was the whole idea. And like Sony had those Vitas and they would give them to you to capture footage on them. Like you weren't allowed to, they would come to the office. Literally a PR person would come to the office and like do remote work for the day. And like, so you can like use the Vita and capture off of it because they didn't want anyone to know you connected to a TV. I still don't know like why that was such a big deal. I'm like, that would have probably, I don't want to say it would have saved the Vita, but it would have been big for the Vita. So I think they're looking at that, and so I am curious of like what people gravitate towards, and I'm also curious what the more expensive one is. This was something that I was talking to Moore's Law, and he thinks the console will be more expensive, but I'm like, I can imagine a world where the handheld's more expensive because he would know better about the BOM than me, but it's like, it just seems like a much tighter machine. I want to see the industrial design of them. Like none of that's leaked. We know all these details about it, but we don't know what it looks like. And all these things are decided. It's done, so I think that we will learn in Q1 what it is. They'll talk at that point.
I really hope I just want all these handhelds to go a little slimmer. Like the I'm very happy with my Steam Deck OLED or my Xbox Ally or my PlayStation Portal. I'm very happy with them. Like I'm glad these things exist, but now I think it's time to do what all these handhelds did, which is they got smaller and smaller. I don't think you got to go Game Boy Advance Micro, but I do think you need to get like, I don't know, maybe not PS Vita, but like somewhere in that range where like, I think the Switch 2 is pretty ideal. Like not too hefty, not too small. You can take advantage of the screen and everything, but it's portable, truly, And I don't know. Do you guys ever think they'll get the things down to like pocket size? Do you think these companies care about that?
I think they care. I just think it's a matter of like mass marketing things that are most affordable to them, as many people as possible. Like I'm sure Sony can make the sleekest PS6 portable you can possibly imagine. I think the thing is like the consumers. It's funny because I think people are like getting more in tune with like the cost constraints of the core gamer, but I'm like, I'm not sure that it's been met yet. Like I think people are still willing to pay. I think you might start getting tension at $1,000, but like people talk is cheap. People will still go buy this shit. I think for Sony, the major thing is, as I understand, is that they're sacrificing power for mass marketability, and that the rumors about I think they had different ideas before all the shit went haywire with the economy, but like, and with obviously buying assets for the consoles, but they want to make it cheap. They want to make it cheap. Like, so I think surprisingly cheap. And we'll see how that all works out. Because I think they realize like there's no real power differential anymore, especially with PSSR working so well for them. It's like we can just make a moderately more powerful machine. We don't have to go crazy with it. The AI shit can make things, and ray tracing and all that can help.
That was my theory with Xbox when they started talking about different ways to approach, because I was watching as they were kind of working on their Xbox Ally, and they were kind of like they shipped with like a certain SKU, and then as time has gone on through the neural processing or whatever, I'm not going to pretend I know fully what I'm talking about here, but like they I mean, this thing got way more powerful, and like it was running games for longer, more efficient with battery life. These games were functioning better. It started to kind of get that like built for Ally tag or whatever it was. Like you started to see there was a lot of juice in that. And so I wonder, I mean, that's the one good thing that can come from AI upscaling is like, I think people would buy cheaper units that could then upscale to a certain fidelity or frame rate and take that if it meant they could get into their games. I think we're at that point where the frame rate shit is just the pixel shit. It's just about like, dude, you got so many people who are, I mean, like me, like I could like play my old games for the rest of time. Like, my PS2 shit, like I think people just want to play right now. So I think companies are going to start giving ways to play. So that's interesting that Sony might be exploring that too.
Yeah. I think the writing's on the wall. I mean, Asha was saying that too, is like, there is a tension with the price that is going to be met with the pricing. Like things are supposed to get cheaper. Yeah. And then you're supposed to get the big like sticker shock for the next generation. But now it might seem like it actually might go backwards. I mean, that's what Tom keeps saying, is that like, it's hard to like square this intellectually, but like the new consoles could be cheaper than the PS5 Pro.
Right.
Because it's different, like different components. every inch of plastic you cut off the machine, every like piece of like ounce of silicon you get off of the machine, like it all saves money when you're manufacturing millions of them. So we'll see how that all goes down, but I'll be very interested to see how this race shapes up, because I don't think this whole thing is going to go like it's gone in the past. I think it's going to be more muted and more spread out than it used to be, because I think people are just not going to want to move on. And PS5, I keep saying PS5 is going to be relevant for many years to come. Many years. And I think that people will still make, I mean, some of the games that were announced recently over the last week are still coming to PS4. So I think
which ones? Do you have any off the top of your head? I'm just curious.
Look at my list here. I think that Final Fantasy 2D HD game might be one of them. Let me see.
Oh, wow. That makes sense. Yeah.
Tales of Eternia's port is one of them for sure. Yeah. There was a couple in, is Crazy Taxi one of them? I don't think so. But yeah, there are a few. Persona 4 Revival, I think, is one of them.
Oh, interesting. Oh.
Yeah, so not many, but like that, I don't think Sony's going to cut off certification until the 2030s for PS4. Like I really think it's just going to go and go and go, because I think it's still not so much for Western markets, but I think it will be relevant in emerging markets still, very much like Brazil and Genesis back in the day or shit like that. Like I just think it's stupid to kind of walk away from it. At the same time, I think it's frustrating for them. I think because their monthly active users look so inflated, because people are. It'll be the first generation. There'll be 3 PlayStation consoles going at the same time. So anyway, all right, my boys, we've been going for a long time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye. Cog, goodbye to you. Good to see you as always. Anything to share with the audience before we go for this weekend?
Long overdue. Miss talking to you.
Likewise.
It's been a minute. We had this permutation, so this was really cool. And ready for the weekend, and get excited, man. But yeah, this was fun. A lot of fun to talk game and this inflection point where the hell things are going. All this stuff's interesting, fascinating.
What are you playing these days?
Oh my God, what am I not playing? What can I talk about?
You have some access to some early things?
Yeah. But like I said, I played Aliens Fireteam. I played Treasure in Heaven. I played NetEase's Blood Message, which looked phenomenal. And I think everyone's going to be on notice after seeing that game, including Capcom Without a Musher. I was blown away by Blood Message specifically. And then with the backlog stuff, it's been Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I'm super hyped for, Revelation. And my little artsy-fartsy game right now is Echo Generation 2. And it's like a turn-based car builder, pixel art, kind of like 80 Stranger Things, kind of inspired. Cool. I love the game. It's goofy. It's fun. So yeah, I'm all over the place with my head. And I started 007. Fortunately, I had to miss because I'm late on everything with the spoiler cast. I wanted to be part of stuff. But man, what an opening. That's one of the best tutorials I've ever seen in
yes, I was talking about that. The tutorial is amazing. Bro, the tutorial is really amazing.
What is this? Like, people need to take a lesson learned from it. Like, they throw you right into the mix, but it was so cinematically and coolly done. Wow. So yeah, I owe a shout out to them. But yeah, it's just a little bit of everything. And I'm in content season, so hopefully things will get to slow down and I get to really focus on just playing games as opposed to playing new games that are previews and stuff like that. That's what kind of been in the bag.
Yeah, 007 is shockingly good. I beat it a couple nights ago. I'll go back and platinum it because I'm missing a bunch of the collectibles, but it was awesome. It was I'm not a 007 person either. It's not like I care about the brand. I just thought it was really, really good. Very compelling. It actually makes me want to get more into 007.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't believe that Amazon's like flip-flopping online. I don't know if you guys have seen the headlines. They're like, we might do a sequel, might be
they're
us.
so fucking stupid. I was saying this on Sacred Symbols, especially because they can't make a game to save their fucking lives over there. You'd think that they would just be happy that they like stumbled into this acquisition with MGM. And we're like, oh, okay. Like, so I think the wisdom will prevail behind that.
I think so too.
It just feels like they're trying to make it about them. I mean, that's what I'm reading with the headlines. Like, they're kind of pissed that like they figured it out, but like we can't with all our resources. So they're kind of like not giving IO what they want. IO's like, yeah, it sold 3 million copies already. I'm like,
bro,
I don't know, bro. Like, I actually didn't expect that much pull. I'm gonna be honest, but I was like, okay, bro. Like, you guys don't want to work with them. I mean,
let's just say I was in rooms with IO and that the top brass from them, and they're popping off, and they have a roadmap. They've got things going. Like, it would be foolish if they do not continue to utilize them because they have something special here. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's the only unfortunate
has all the potential.
I'm sorry to talk over you, Matt. I was going to say the only unfortunate thing from their perspective is that they just won't be able to self-publish any of the games anymore. Right. And that's going to obviously cut into their money. But I think they realize they have a lot of safety in continuing with this. And what I was saying on Sacred was it's such an impressive first game. You have to get the sequel out. Like you figured this out. Like, and it's so funny how much like Hitman it is,
Yes.
and how impressive it is. Like it's a very impressive presentational game. It's great. Highly recommended. Matty, what about you? What's going on? Goodbye to you. Anything you're playing? Anything you want to share before we go?
Nothing to share. Just been business as usual. This weekend will be my first off weekend in a very long time. We were pushing to a deadline for our project. And so like all my other weekends that I would have had off leading into working the kind of Summer Games Fest weekend, which I was originally planning to travel to, went to that project. And then as things were cutting close, I was like, okay, time to double down. And so stayed at home, and then, we made it work. And this is the first weekend after that. So everyone's kind of in the release phase for a moment, kind of gathering things up. So it's going to be my first weekend where I'm just really going to focus on kicking my feet up. I can tell because I'm in that mode where I'm looking for things to do. I'm like, I've done my day's work and I'm still looking for things to do, a little restless. So I'm just looking forward to kicking my feet up this weekend. I just beat Spyro 1. First time ever.
On PS1, or you played the reimagined one?
Yeah, the reimagined.
Oh yeah, that's
trilogy.
good stuff.
So,
I like that trilogy.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun just to play. I mean, I play so many story-driven, serious-ass games, so it's nice. Sometimes I don't really plan it as a palate cleanser, but it was nice just to play something that was like fun and cute and kind of. I mean, I literally know nothing about Spyro, so I was like, oh, these are like hub worlds, and it's kind of like Sly 1, and where you like go to the levels within the level.
Collectathon.
Yeah, Collectathon. It was neat, and it made me curious because like Sly 2 is my favorite in the series. That's one of my favorite games of all time because it just like took all those pieces, expanded them in interesting ways, built a great story. So I'm like, I wonder what Spyro 2 is like. Again, I have no idea. So I'll be checking that out because I jumped into it because the excitement for Spyro was so high. I mean, ridiculously high. I was like, oh, it's like the most viewed trailer coming out of that last week.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's see what like everyone's talking about. And like, I'm seeing the charm. I think a lot of it's like you grew up with it, but I definitely see the charm. So I've been playing that Liza P. Overture. I'm finally getting through that. And been enjoying my time in Krot once more. I want to make sure I got that done before. I feel the sequel announcement's coming any showcase now. It feels like it's been enough time. They're moving really quickly, and this DLC has been just kind of business as usual. So that'll probably be the bulk of my focus this weekend. Just a lot of Overture, having some family over on Sunday for a little barbecue. So yeah, it's going to be a nice unwinding for your boy. Just cool. That's kind of what I need right now. I love my job. Like more passionate about it now than ever before. I just need the weekend to just sort of reset a little bit mentally, emotionally, physically, and just kind of get that. I'm not thinking about content, get that all out of the way. So looking forward to it. But dude, this is awesome. Again, we don't do this often enough. It's just really good to get us together like this and just talk about where things are headed. So give it a month. When the Xbox reset comes in, it'll be fun to reassess what we were right and wrong about.
Studio closures and layoffs.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Like, not too bad. She's making those Fallout games now, and she shuts down like everyone in the process.
Yeah, their fiscal year ends in June 30th, and then the news will come from there.
Yeah, I literally think it's going to be the following day.
All right. Well, yeah, it was good. Yeah, I agree. We have to do this more often, and we'll get the other guys involved too. Dustin will be gone for a while, but Chris is just indisposed today. We had to divide and conquer. We kind of feel the same way about a lot of this stuff though, so I think it would have been redundant. Otherwise, what am I? Yeah, I have to. So I want to platinum 007, and I got to go back and platinum Pragmata, which I loved. That's my game of the year so far. I thought that game was insane. How good that game is.
Yeah. Yeah, so fun. I got to play like the new game plus.
Right, that's what I want to do as well. Yeah. And then I did all the optional stuff. Like I really am only missing the trophy for beating it on hard. So like I did everything else in the game because there's a bunch of optional post game stuff. Pretty
easy trophy list. Like they like I think it was at 39 or something like that. Like it was they didn't hit that like 50 mark.
No, I don't think so. I was actually more impressed by 007's trophy adoption. Has been really like that game has got good, bringing people all the way through it and really good. And fast, which is cool. Nice. So I got to get back to that. And then I got to get back to 007's platinum is apparently bugged for some people. So I'm just waiting for them to patch it. I'll get back to that. And then Mina is a big one for me, but I'm not really feeling it. And I got to go back and I think I just want to start it again. And like, I'm actually talking to a friend of mine over there and talking about the game. And like how it's frustrating for me because it is so clearly based over the flagship Capcom Zelda games on Game Boy Color, which I love. And it's just not speaking to me. I think it's vagueness. It is incredibly vague. It reminds me of Link's Awakening in that regard, where I'm like, what the fuck do you want me to do? And I find that frustrating sometimes. So I got to get back to that as well. But Lego Batman's the one that I want to play next, actually.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
I love Batman.
So fucking
I love
good.
a streamlined Lego game.
Or like
the idea. Because I played Lego Star Wars, like the new one, 2022's, I guess. And I told myself at the time, I'm like, because I like Lego games. And I'm like, if I don't play through in order, I'm never going to do the prequels. So I'm going to start with the prequels. And I did episode 1 and episode 2, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
The game.
And so I gotta.
Yeah, I was gonna say the prequels of the Skywalker saga were really like they did really good with the original trilogy, but the prequel shit was bad. Yeah.
So so I don't want to act like I'm like all up Lego's ass these days, because I'm not. But it's I like the idea of like the streamlined like 7 characters kind of thing, but like it's got all the trappings of the Lego games, but it's not quite as frustrating. It's very appealing to me. So.
I think you will like it. I think they figured out a lot building off of Skywalker saga, where I think the way its story is told is even brilliant. Like it's just this thread of all the Batman greatest hits into its own story. And I think that is like something that like Lego game stories have always been predictable. Like here's the parody of the thing you saw, but this is like, again, an original story, but it's got like, here's a scene from the Batman in 2022, but it's happening in the middle of this otherwise original narrative. And it's got free flow combat, and it's literally an Arkham game in a lot of ways too.
That's what I heard.
It's combat, but like it's open world. Like instead of putting a bunch of collectibles in the individual levels, they have them. But it's really about like when you build up your roster and you used to go back and free play, they've now kind of put that energy into the open world and solving puzzles. And like it's exceptional. It's in my top 3 right now. I fucking love it. Like it's really good stuff. So I'd be keen to get your thoughts on it. I think it's a really special game. I know Locke loves it too.
Yeah, right now it's top 3 for me would be Pragmata, Requiem, 007, probably something like that.
Yeah.
Nice. But many more games coming. September, October is gonna be. Well, it starts with the reincarnation game or whatever that comes out in August.
Oh, Beast
of Reincarnation, and then it'll begin from there. And we'll be off to the races.
Yeah.
All right, dudes. Well, everyone go check out Defining Duke if you don't already, our weekly Xbox podcast on our network. And of course, we appreciate you supporting all of our shows here, regardless of what you listen to. Patreon.com/LastStandMedia for early ad-free access, as you know, and laststandmedia.store for merch. See you next time. Until then, goodbye. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.